Another carry for Davey Martinez. Cuts it back. Touchdown number 3.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Wigman again to the air. One hand grab, Evan Stewart. Freshman to freshman and a 15-yard strike.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
One return by Caleb Downs, and he finds a seam. He makes the punter look silly. Caleb Downs, show him what you got.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Judkins up the middle, no one home for Auburn. House call, touchdown.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
This time it's going to be Leonard on the ground. Leonard showing some moves and some speed. A foot race to the 10, to the touchdown. 56 yards. Beautiful run by Riley Leonard.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Gabriel. Launches touchdown, Nick Anderson.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on 365 Sports on this Wednesday afternoon. We will let you know about a young man that's, no longer young. He's almost 30 years old, who's getting back into college football or attempting to go back into college football. Also, a couple of notes on when you look at revenue sharing, and really some quotes in an article by Ross Dellinger I think are pretty interesting. Good deal for Quinshon Judkins, we'll tell you that. And then we also will have the debate about which sport could the athletes of that professional sport go to another professional sport and excel. And at some point today, we'll have the Austin Rivers quote about that when it comes to the NBA and the NFL. Craig Smoak to my right, Paul Catalina to my left, Garrett Ross and Jack McKenzie running the mothership. I'm David Smoak. Today, Cris Dishman, former Oilers and longtime NFL cornerback. He's now the head coach at Texas Southern. Baylor offensive line transfer Colton Thomasson. Steve Henson, who's now a part of Scott Drew's staff. And we'll also hear from Cole Cubelic from ESPN on many things college football. So here is... We've taken some, I guess we've discussed Dabo Sweeney and his lack of wanting to use the transfer portal. And I don't know if they picked anybody up this year in the portal, right, Craig?
They have not.
They have not,
no.
Okay. So Brian Kelly and LSU are trying to find positions to not only fill, but also everybody needs defensive linemen. Brian Kelly on a station in Baton Rouge discussing LSU's search for talent on the defensive line.
So the D-line, interior D lineman, where are you right now with that?
Well, I think I made it pretty clear in a number of the press conferences that I had that we were in the market in recruiting in the transfer portal looking for defensive linemen. It hasn't fared very well, quite frankly, because, we're selling something a little bit differently, and that is we want to recruit, we want to engage, build relationships, we want to develop, retain, and have success. We're not in the market of buying players, and unfortunately, right now, that's what some guys are looking for. They want to be bought. And look, I understand NIL is part of this, and we have an incredible collective. We have very, very generous opportunities around the greater Baton Rouge area for NIL opportunities. So they are here, but we're not going to go out and buy players. That's not what this is about. This was never about that. We will develop you. We will get you ready for the next step, as we did with Jaden Daniels, as we did with Malik Neighbors, as we did with with Brian Thomas. We developed 3 defensive linemen that all got drafted this year, and we'll do that again. But if you're just looking to get paid, you're looking in the wrong place. If you like all the things that we do here in developing our players, bringing you into a championship program, playing in front of the best fan base in America, playing for championships, and having an opportunity for NIL, you should be a Tiger. But if you just want to get, paid, this is not the place for you.
All right, so that's Jacques Doucette with Brian Kelly, the head coach at LSU. And there will be some, I think, that applaud him. There will be some that said, go ahead, you're going to be left behind. And then there are some that at least appreciate his openness, whether you agree with him or not. What say you guys?
Well, look, he says they're not in the business of buying players, which, I mean, that may mean he's not going to play I'm going to pay anything to get a guy, which I think is good, but they are buying players. I mean, they're still doing it a little bit because that's the process of NIL, but I do admire that he's not going to play the game of like, oh, well, Miami offered me, $650 and you guys are offering me $600, that he's not going to be like, all right, we'll give you $675 and play that game with the guys, that he's going to be more reasonable about it, and he's not going to run down the line doing all that. Like, certainly, it's better to develop and find guys in the portal that you can develop for a couple years. But, I mean, he's using the portal just like everybody else, and he knows the rules of it. But if it comes down to a bidding war, I do appreciate that he's just not going to get in a bidding war and get desperate, because really – most of the time, that's probably not going to work out how you think.
I think anybody who's making a big deal of what he said is being intentionally dishonest and trying to spin a narrative that he's saying something that he's really not. There's nothing controversial with what he said. I mean, he just simply is letting it be known that they're not going to go just throw money at a guy and go win a bidding war just for the sake of winning a bidding war and landing a guy. They're going to recruit. They're going to do it just like everybody else does it in terms of trying to bring guys in-house, develop them, also knowing that there's a really slim chance that you're going to be able to retain everybody, but they're going to do the best they can to run it like a regular program, like we knew college football to be for so many years. And yes, you're going to do it with the money part of it, but that's what you're still going to try to do, is bring guys in, let them grow, mature, evolve, coach them up. They get better, you get better, so on and so forth. And over time, that turns into something you hope pretty special. But in today's age, it's just really hard to do that. And so I think all he's saying is that they're just not going to go buy guys. And really, shouldn't that be applauded? Like, shouldn't that be the right approach? And we're not knocking a guy for saying, I don't want to just go buy players. I'd rather develop them and bring them in-house. Versus, I guess the alternative was just like, yeah, we're just going to go money whip guys and don't care how we get them, just as long as we get them. I feel like it's because it's Brian Kelly. It's because it's a big school with a lot of rivals that this is, and I don't even know how big or blown out of proportion it really is. I just saw a little bit of back and forth on this yesterday. I really think anybody trying to pan him too much for this is making something out of nothing. I see no harm in what he had to say. They're definitely paying players. They're definitely going after guys and offering them bags, but I think it's not about just the money is what his message is, whereas for some other programs that might be more of the focus is just the money part, and so I actually agree with him. I don't see anything wrong with what he said there, but I get why people see him, well, we're not paying players, and they're like, oh, liar, you are paying players. He's not saying they don't pay players, just saying it's not what it all boils down to.
One of the other parts of it goes, I understand NIL is a part of this. We have an incredible collective. We have very, very generous opportunities around the Baton Rouge area for NIL, etc. Garrett Ross, LSU fan, I asked you earlier, go ahead and repeat what you told me before the show began.
I actually like this a lot. I gained a lot of respect for Brian Kelly with these comments. I've been very critical of him in the past on numerous occasions. But at the same time, I think this is the proper approach. LSU is going to get active in the transfer portal, but I think they're doing it in a way that I think his plan, from what I'm taking from this, is what most schools should do. You recruit, you build players in-house, and then you subsidize needs through the portal, but you don't overbid for it, because to me, you got people now who are going to have to keep account of what you're sending out to these different players. And I think that could, if you start sending too much money out, that could get crossed up. I also like that, like, dude, you don't have to go and get a stud. Like, you can have so much talent around you. You don't have to go get a Walter Nolan and put a bunch of money into him. You can get somebody that's like a 3-star, develop them in 2 years. They're going to be fine. I like this approach. LSU's going to be fine. They're going to make the playoff. They're going to compete. I don't see this hindering them from really being a championship contender down the road.
I definitely think there's like some sour grapes in that they've probably not gotten certain guys, and so you're going to pan NIL a little bit and put your twist on it. But all he's saying is, like, he's not going to go get the guy who's simply all about the money. Like, he wants guys who, yeah, if you want money, we get that, and we have money for you. We may not have as much as others, and we may not land you as a result of that. But if you're one of those people who, like, the whole goal of where you go is what money you get, that's not what they're looking for. We'll get you the money so long as you have the right head on your shoulders and you're coming here to do it the right way, then that'll all work itself out. But if it's all about just simply the chasing of dollars, then that's not the type of player they want, and I don't think that's the type of player anybody really wants. But there are certainly those cases where maybe somebody's so talented that, you know, Ohio State says, screw it, yeah, we'll get in there and we'll win the bidding war for this guy. But I think every coach would echo this. You don't want a lot of guys who are just in it simply for the money. What is that going to result in ultimately for your locker room? You know, not necessarily outright failure, but it certainly lowers the odds of you having the type of culture that you want if you're bringing guys in just simply about the cash part of it.
Yeah, it's not as if he says they won't go and find talent and also have the NIL available. I thought what he said to me, Craig, you made this comment, Garrett, I thought it was refreshing. Because the easiest thing to do is not say anything. Nick Saban, remember when he was doing his radio show about NIL and people like initially roasted him. He was also galvanizing his fan base, his donors, his alum. So Brian Kelly, we're not in the market of buying players. That's fine. And that maybe that's the way it should be.
Isn't also saying the same thing. It's not like he's saying something super unique here. Again, I think it's because it's Brian Kelly and LSU, but I think most coaches would say, we're not buying players. We want to develop and we want to recruit them, but we'll pay money because we know that's the deal, but that's not what it's all about. And basically, that's all he's saying is it's not all about the money, and I think every coach in America would pretty much agree with that. I don't think it's, again, anything all that shocking that he's saying here.
And if you're mad at him for saying this, I think you're lost in semantics, because what he says is we're not going to buy players. What he really means is I'm not going to do a bidding war. A guy comes in and he's going to get NIL, that's fine. We make a reasonable deal, but if he starts telling me that, you know, this is what my price is, match it or I'm gone, then I admire the fact that he's like, well, you know what? Go ahead. And the other thing I know that some of this can be life-changing money, like especially some of the money we've heard thrown around in the basketball portal right now. If any that's close to true, that can be, you know, long-term money. But if you're talking about a lot of these guys that, you know, if I left, you know, Western Michigan and transferred to Alabama, right? And I was getting a little bit of NIL at Western Michigan because they have a small program. But I told Alabama, you better give me $300,000. And you're like, well, most of the guys like you, we give $80,000 to. You said, okay, well, I'll take 90. You're like, well, are you really going to go not to Alabama between $80,000 and $90,000? Like, that's not going to last you the rest of your life. It's nice money to have, but like the only time you need to really get in a bidding war is when like generational wealth is on the line.
Yeah, I believe that even where we cover here at Baylor, there was a player back during the offseason, the transfer portal between the end of the year and the first of the year, when asked about his needs as far as the position and what they needed at quarterback, or they felt like they needed a quarterback, and what he ended up with was not what he wanted. He wanted more. And you have to be able to say, this is our line, no matter who you are, whatever school you are, no matter what your budget might be, this is our line. And then, of course, they ended up getting the player, and they got him for what was a really good price compared to what he was being offered and also what he first. And remember, there's runners. There's these guys out there, too, the runners, the agents, or whoever, that are asking for this money also to try to get as much as they possibly can.
Yeah, I've tried to see people spin this to, like, he's saying that they don't pay money at all. That's not what he's saying. He's trying to act like he's holier than thou. That's not what he's saying. He's pouting because LSU's not getting certain guys. Maybe there's something to that. Maybe, you've missed on a few guys, and so you want to act like it's not all about the money. But even that is like nothing to be grilled over, quite frankly. I mean, everybody is going to be, looking for the same types of players, and you're going to be upset when you don't get them. But I think the message still is the message, and it's pretty clear of like, yeah, if you want to just be gone to the highest bidder, then good luck to you. But that's not what we're looking for, and most programs in America aren't looking for that type of player or that type of mindset. You're still those guys are going to find spots, of course, because talent's going to outweigh a lot of things, like in all of sports. But a whole lot of something about nothing, quite frankly, I think, and mostly because it's Brian Kelly.
But with him and where he is in the salary structure of head coaches, is there anything hypocritical about the fact he's probably among the top 5 paid coaches in America?
No, because I don't think that, like, he didn't, when he left for Notre Dame to go to LSU, it wasn't about money. Notre Dame could pay him the same. Like, it was about him going to be in the SEC. It was really, it was just about the two sides being tired of each other. The Calipari situation, so to speak. I mean, so again, those things about like his personality at places you can gripe about, but he gets the market rate. Players are doing well getting market rate right now. And I'll use the example on NIL, and I think that like that's what the coaches are trying to get across to kids, and hopefully they can communicate it well is, Arch Manning went to Texas because he wanted to go to Texas, because wherever Arch Manning went, if he went to Texas, if he went to Washington, if he went to NC State, the NIL was going to be the same for him because he's Arch Manning. And most of the NIL and his ability to make extra money was going to happen because his last name is Manning, not because he's at a certain university, because that's going to come from outside. And even though that not everybody's Arch Manning and has the football royalty name, your going rate's going to be your going rate. And then you can start like splitting hairs for a little bit of money here and a little bit of money there. But for the most part, everybody's going to pay about the same to you. So you need to go to the school that you want to go and play for.
UT Parker saying, and I'll just read one sentence from him, what he did or what went wrong is when he mentioned buying players.
Yeah, semantics.
Exactly, that's what it is, semantics. Yeah. People are like dwelling on like his exact wording there and acting as though he's saying something that he's really not saying if you are just simply not trying to drill down and make him look bad. It's very clear what he was trying to get at. But yeah, if you want to take it that way, then you're clearly taking it the wrong way to try and run a narrative. Not you, UT Parking, but the couple of articles that I've already seen put out about this, like he's being this. I think that's a bunch of hot air, quite frankly. This is again, much ado about absolutely nothing, quite frankly. But again, it's LSU, it's Brian Kelly, it's SEC fan bases. Oh, you don't pay players, and media saying, oh, Brian Kelly's making a bunch of money. Who's he to say? He left Notre Dame. So I get it, but I also think like it's just a bunch of nothing.
All right, let's do a couple of quick stories. Quinshon Judkins, the Ohio State running back, Garrett will pop up he gave $10,000 to his former high school. There are NIL stories that you mentioned, Arch Manning, who does an incredible amount with what he has. In fact, I think almost all of it. He has presented a check to his former high school for $10,000. In that story about him, he also is going to give money back to the Alabama Kidney Foundation walk during his time when he scores touchdowns. His high school, by the way, was Pike Road. And there's another story that was mentioned. Dylan Gabriel presented his former high school with new uniforms since the offseason in Hawaii. The high school program received those last week. So just want to look at those stories when they come down of players doing something really cool and they have every right to keep every bit of it, but they're also giving back.
Yeah, it's good to see. There's a lot of good going on we don't hear about because it's not, I guess, newsy enough. And, sometimes it's just like, it's just guys in different markets you don't necessarily pay much attention to or care much about. But I think when you get a little reminder sometimes of, especially what some of the bigger names in the sport are doing with this, collection of NIL money that they've earned. It's cool to hear. I mean, there's a lot of good things going on, and it probably doesn't get paid nearly as much of attention as the NIL portion gets paid when these guys are getting recruited. You know, we dwell so much on certain aspects of NIL and pay very little attention to the positive sides of it, and I think those are definitely some examples of positives, and there's a lot more out there that I've seen throughout the last couple of years. So, yeah, that's great, and probably needs to be, you know, highlighted, hopefully in their communities, because it's not like something's going to catch fire nationally necessarily, conversationally, but I think, you know, if there's good being done in that community, whatever college that is, with whatever players there are, hopefully that's getting attention, and hopefully that's something that spreads as a result of that.
Brett McMurphy with this note about UCF. We've seen schools in the Big 12 when they've sold out their ticket allotment. UCF sells out their entire allotment of season tickets, more than 27,500 for the fourth consecutive year and fifth time since 2019. A good time to plug that Gus Malzahn, barring something that changes, will be our guest pretty much to start the show on Thursday.
Yeah, good for the Knights. I mean, they're in a good little run right now as far as making the transition. Now everything's settled in, and you can just get ready for the norm that is being in the Big 12 and going the second time around starting next fall. I think there's a lot left to be desired with how football played out in that first year. That Baylor loss was absolutely brutal. There were some other moments that weren't very fun either, but I think you took your licks and you went to the drawing board this offseason and regrouped and added some really intriguing players at quarterback, at running back, and elsewhere. Need to shore up what they've got defensively, but I think they've made some nice moves talent acquisition-wise, and I think now they've wiped off the blood off their lip, and it's healed up, and they're ready to go for round two, and I think that's a team that's very intriguing because of some of the moves that they made. So I don't know where they fall in the pecking order. There's a conference right now in the Big 12 that is absolutely, just bonkers in terms of trying to think what's actually going to happen. Now, I know there's a lot of let's just put Utah at the top, understandably so. K-State, I get that. Kansas makes sense. There's a few teams that you just automatically spit out when you're thinking of the top tier of the Big 12 next year, but there's a whole lot of just who the heck knows, and UCF could be a part of that, really making things interesting because I think they're going to have a pretty talented team. All right, Garrett, let's go to the Monty Harrison story. This was late yesterday, a former professional baseball player, minor league player, former high school four-star receiver, a two-sport signee with Nebraska, went on to play minor league baseball, didn't work out that great, but he is now going to walk on at Arkansas. Max Olson then threw in this nugget. Arkansas adding 28-year-old, I think he's 29-year-old wide receiver from the class of 2014. And he's going to get a shot. Now, we've seen baseball players do this. We've seen Booty when he was in high school, went to go play minor league baseball eventually at LSU. Quan Cosby, who played minor league baseball in the Angels organization, went on to play and be really good at the University of Texas. So there's a story about Monty Harrison going to play at the University, or trying to go play football at the University of Arkansas. Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting. The guy's been in Major League Baseball that is now going back to college. That's just kind of crazy of a, I guess a life path, but very interesting. And I don't know what his actual chances are to really see playing time or what that's actually going to look like. But I bet he's going to be in the ice tub a little bit more than his teammates at 28 years old after practices are over with. I think that's a safe bet. Beyond that, though, it's a unique story, that's for sure. So, yeah, that'll be something to pay attention to potentially with Arkansas moving forward. He will turn 29 in August. And now a couple of quotes, and then we come back and talk. Where he originally committed, right? Huh? You know where he was originally going, right? Nebraska. Yeah. Yeah, I was trying not to put that out there because another two-sports star like Carl Crawford and a few others that can make it. Well, who's the baseball? Bubba Thompson, was that him? Bubba. Went to the Royals. Guy played with the Royals. Oh God, yeah. Bubba Thompson was the Rangers. He was a quarterback, the one that played for the Royals, Thompson, and that was Bubba Starling. It was Starling. Yeah. All right, a couple of quotes from Ross Dellinger as he continues to look at the future of college athletics, but just a couple of things to make sure that we kind of have. This is what is happening, or maybe timelines, etc. The next 12 to 18 months, major college athletics stands to be its most transformative in history, consequential and long-expected step toward professionalism for power schools. We know that. But here's another one that sometimes we forget. Now, again, it's one of those either you do or you don't, and you don't have to. But schools
are not required to do either when it comes to the revenue sharing and spending all the money that you have when it comes to whatever the cap might be, $20, $22 million. And then also on the Alston payment, because I wondered about this. Each player or athlete that is covered under the Alston lawsuit will get about $6,000. And that's about $1.5 to $3 million annually that the schools have been paying or will be paying. I looked that up, $6,000 to, for example, take a school with 500 athletes. Now that sounds like a lot, but 500 athletes, that's like $3 million. So that's what Ross came up with, depending on the size of the school, how many athletes are in the program, how many of them are also on scholarship.
Well, I mean, like, again, the class action lawsuits are not necessarily like once you get a bunch of people in a class action lawsuit, you're really not looking at a huge payout unless it's like, you know, like earth shattering and there's not a whole lot of people in the lawsuit. But you're talking about thousands and thousands of people who would be here in this lawsuit. So, yeah, $6,000 is nice, but like it's not going to be, again, life-changing money. It's more about putting a hurt on the entity that did something wrong.
If you are a long snapper, an offensive tackle, or a star running back, that's about what they'll get at that $6,000 when, in fact, that is official.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be seeing that part in the headlines because that's not juicy enough. Of like players get $6,000, people are gonna be like, okay, like so what? That's nothing. But it'll be something. I'd love $6,000 right now. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the daunting figure you think of when you see like the total figure and you're like, oh my God, like the millions of dollars. And it's like, yeah, once you break it down, it's not quite as lucrative for each individual as you might think, although your bigger stars obviously can make way more on the side with their own NIL deals. But yeah, I mean, basically the message is, like, I don't know, the last 2 years I feel like we've heard that same sort of ominous, like the next 24 months are going to be the craziest, and they've been pretty crazy. So with all that's boiling up, it stands to reason that these next 12 to 24 with the ACC lawsuits and all of the various NCAA lawsuits that this could, burst again in a different type of way. And maybe that looks like professionalism on the other side of it or any other number of models that are being thrown out there. There's a lot to figure out, and it would have been great if this was all figured out years ago, but the powers that be wanted to be greedy, and so here we are all these years later with an absolute traffic jam of litigation and really no answers outside of Congress throwing you a life raft or getting to some sort of settlement, as we've talked about with some of the ideas that were thrown out there last week. That seems like the most obvious path is a temporary type of agreement that will last at least for a few years to give everybody just a dadgum break from all of the lawsuits, or well, some of the lawsuits. So there's a way that some of this can get settled sooner rather than later. But yeah, it's a big jumbled mess as a result of years of inactivity and refusing to do what everybody knew was eventually going to have to be done. So here we are, and this is what you created, NCAA. So and schools are the ones running the NCAA after all. So no one to blame but themselves. Don't need to feel sorry for anybody, although I do feel somewhat sorry for some of the smaller schools. Although, as you mentioned, like they won't be required to spend $20 million on player payouts. It'll be more of like what you can do and what you choose to do. But there will be effects to that. So, yeah, it's going to be a different world 2 years from now than what we've been accustomed to. But that's also kind of what we've been accustomed to, is everything the way we knew it changing and being different than we knew it.
In the NFL, there's a salary cap. And you can go over the cap, and you could use it like a credit card. And then I heard somebody the other day say, well, not everybody has to spend that amount. You actually are, you have to. You have to spend a certain amount of money over a 3 to 5 year period of time. Stephen Jones brought that up at the press conference before the NFL draft. You don't have to every year, but at some point you've got to reach the threshold that you're there paying. Baseball has their, what do they call it, luxury tax.
Yeah.
The Twins or the Royals could spend less, but in the NFL, you gotta put out the money.
Pretty rich that Stephen Jones would even bring that up as something the Cowboys were ever in danger of.
No, actually.
Oh yeah, there was no cap. Like, who would be out there just spending more money than everybody? But yeah, especially with his handling of kind of the finances.
I wonder if they would
it's ironic.
Would they spend more if there was no cap, Steven?
Yeah.
Oh, of course they would.
Yeah.
How did they win all the Super Bowls in the 90s? There was no salary cap. They drafted
the thing
well.
Is they would not have to. The thing that would happen with them, and I know we've got to go to Dishman here after the break, but if there was no cap, the issue wouldn't be going and signing free agents because they don't like that. It would be they don't have to renegotiate and worry about Dak Prescott and like all that stuff. He'd be like, this is what we want.
I'm saying that because there's been thought that Steven's the one that is kind of one fighting against going out and just spending a lot of money, which is also smart in some cases. By the way, a couple other guys that played both baseball and football, Brandon Wheaton, Chris Wenke. Those were a couple other names.
Heisman Trophy winner, Chris Wenke. Say his name right.
When we come
I remember
back,
their bald spots as they were quarterbacking their college teams at damn near 30 years old.
When
they
we
were both
come
great.
back, former NFL cornerback. He's now the head coach of Texas Southern University. Also, Floyd Johnson on an event coming up, not this weekend, but next, with some Heisman Trophy winners raising money. Texas Southern University. Cris Dishman and Floyd Johnson, they're next. This is 365 Sports.
It's the season to rev up your drive with Alan Samuels with the new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Waco. Your ultimate destination for unbeatable deals and top-notch service. Looking for a reliable ride to conquer these beautiful spring days? Look no further. The powerful trucks and sleek sedans are the perfect SUV. We've got the perfect vehicle to match your style and budget. Over 300 new vehicles to choose from. Now's the time to make your move. Enjoy special discounts, low financing rates, and incredible incentives. But hurry, these offers won't last forever. Alan Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Let the journey to financial brilliance begin with Genco's limited time offers. Max your earnings with a Kasasa cash account and get paid monthly with a 4.25 APY. That's $425 annually. Then invest in a 13-month share certificate and earn 4.9 APY. That's $529. Earn cash and outshine the rest. At Genco, we offer you the sun and the moon. Kasasa based on average daily balance of $10,000. Certificate based on $10,000 investment. See GencoFCU.org for details. NCUA.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Not this weekend, but next weekend, the Mike Rozier Annual Heisman Players Weekend down in the Houston area, benefiting the Guerrero Family Foundation, but also a part of Texas Southern University. And speaking of them, Cris Dishman, former NFL cornerback and now the head coach, hired back earlier this year at Texas Southern University, joins us via Zoom on 365 Sports, and promoter Floyd Johnson will join us here momentarily. Cris, thank you very much for your time. What was it about Texas Southern, the challenge, and also what you believe the dream can be there?
Well, first of all, why not Texas Southern? You know, where I'm in the heart of, in the fourth largest city in the country. Texas Southern is in the heart of Houston. So why not here? It's a good football area to recruit and also to win football games. So so we just have to we have to create a culture of winning here, and then we could be like they were in the past. So it's a great opportunity for me to be here, to be able to create that culture, and to be able to win a lot of football games. Not only win football games, but get guys graduated. Mm-hmm. You know, everybody always put coach and say, okay, you got to win games, but you got to get guys graduated. You got to get guys being leaders in the community. My guys have went far beyond to do their civil duty as far as 24 hours of commitment as far as community service hours. We got some guys at 70 hours of community service hours, and being a part of the community, not just live here, not just go to school here, but be a part of it, make a difference.
Coach, a lot of NFL players have gone and are coaching or were coaching at HBCU schools. What drew you back in particular to taking a job at an HBCU, which had has very proud history as far as success in putting players in the NFL in the past, and there's a renaissance of trying to rebuild those programs like you are at Texas Southern. What particularly drew you to the HBCU?
Well, opportunity. They gave me an opportunity to come here to be a head coach. They're the first ones, because this is my first head coaching job. So they're the first one to give me that opportunity. So that's always, as you started these jobs, start coaching, you always want to be a head coach. I've been a position coach. I was a position coach there at Baylor. I've been a coordinator. I was a coordinator with the XFL and the USFL. And so this is my opportunity to be a head coach, to put my stamp on it, to put what I see. I've seen good coaches, I've seen bad coaches, and I'm trying to be one of the guys who be one of the good coaches.
Coach, you obviously are just getting started, but I'm sure you've given what being a head coach will be like a ton of thought over the years. What do you think, or how would you describe how Cris Dishman, the head coach, will be for players and those around the program, and what they're going to see moving forward?
Well, first of all, Coach Bennett is such a great friend of mine, and he helped me through this process also. And Bubba McDowell, who's at Prairie View, he wanted me to get this job. So them two I can lean on and call every day and ask questions. What should I do with this? How should I do that? And they're helping me a lot. You know, Coach Bennett been around the game so long, it's crazy. Almost 40, 45 years of him been around the game. He's been an instrumental part of my life, not only as a person, but as a coach. So I got to say I have a good mentor to lean on. But I want to go back to what you guys was talking about, the NIL deal of some guys getting $6,000. You know, $6,000 to you guys now is not nothing, but put yourself back as a 17, 18, and 19-year-old kid. Mm-hmm. Put yourself back on those realms. If someone gave you $6,000 back then, what will you use it on?
It would have been $5,000 real quick. I can tell you that.
A whole lot of things. Don't get me wrong. $6,000 is a lot of money, and I even said I'll take that right now. But I think when people think of NIL craziness, that's not exactly what they're picturing necessarily. So there's kind of a false narrative out there, I think, for the general public of what it's like for every student athlete. So yeah, $6,000 is great for a lot of people.
All right. So I know me as a student back at Purdue University, if someone gave me $6,000 a month. Back then, I don't know if my motivation would have been too high, but it is what it is.
Well, you mentioned that, and now as a coach, you played in the NFL. You've discussed what TSU. By the way, Michael Strahan, Kenny Burrow, Winston Hill, Ernie Holmes, some great names, and others that have been a part of the NFL, as we brought up earlier during the interview. What have you learned about TSU football, Texas Southern University, now that you've been on campus? What have you been able to accomplish, at least up until the last 5 months?
They're itching to win. They want to win. They want to win. They won in other sports. Our men's and women outdoor track and field just won a championship. They've won in basketball. Our baseball team is doing good. They want to win. So that's what the main thing I want to do is win. But I want to win on and off the field. I want to be known as a coach who got his guy being 100% graduation rate and also win majority games.
Coach, how different of a world is college football? I mean, swinging back to the NIL side of things, it's terrific for the players. It's long overdue. This should have been done a long time ago, but now we're finally at this point where, here we are. And so from a coaching perspective and also having the history as a player, it's obviously great. But how do you handle that? And just what are your thoughts being back in the game and how drastically different, if drastically is the right word, is it from when you were last around the college ranks?
Well, first of all, I got to find out where that lawsuit was giving $6,000 a month. So I want to see if I can go back and get it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I got to figure out if I can get back in the game and get that $6,000 because I surely would take it. But it's changed different. We all know that college football has changed since we've played. You know, the hydration, the nutrition, the recovery, everything like that, NIL, everything is so different like that right now as college football. So everyone say, well, when I played, we had this. When I played, we did this. Well, you can't go back to when you played or you can't go back to what you had. Right now, we got to see it as it is. And with college football and with the players out there now, their voices are demanding to be heard. And you got to listen to them and hear their voices. Their bodies is no longer where you can practice 3 or 4 hours a day. They're not built like that. They're not built like when we was built. When your mom put you outside for the day, she put you outside. You can't keep running in and out the house and expect to stay outside. She's going to say you one more time, did you come in this house? You stand. So you just stayed outside all day. Well, they're not like that. They sit up and play the PlayStation game, and they're comfortable doing that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that, but they're not built like we were built back in the day.
Coach, you mentioned your coaching journey. You have coached in about every football league that someone can coach in, and that's impressive. If you were a chef, it would be like spending some time in Paris and then Tokyo and then Italy and like going around and learning all those things because the styles in all those leagues are different. The kind of players that you're coaching are different. How much does that enable to inform you as a head coach and bring up new ideas that you have with your coaching staff? Because maybe you thought of something that you learned in the CFL that would work here, or something that was at Baylor or in the NFL that you can kind of throw into your big recipe, so to speak.
Well, we're making a gumbo over here, so that's what we're doing over here. I got some coaches that's played in the CFL. I got a coach that's been in USFL. I got a coach who's been in professional. So I mix all those coaches together and I let them do their job. My job is to let them do their job. And I got some good coaches on staff here, some good recruiters, some good developers. You got to develop guys these days. You just can't recruit them and think they're going to go out and play. You got to develop them. You got to make sure that you're a teacher. And that's why I don't say we're coaches. I say we're teachers. We're teaching the guys the fundamentals of football. And you can never go wrong with fundamentals of football.
Chris,
we can talk about this all day.
Yeah. No, Harold Smith, by the way, is the assistant coach on Chris's staff, where Floyd Johnson, I think at some point we're going to get him on to discuss the event. And until the camera's on with him, we're going to keep with Chris. I know, Chris, you've got a meeting coming up, too. Were you coachable coming up when you were younger? Was there times when you were not as, acceptable to what coaches were saying to you, or were you always pretty coachable?
Well, for me, I think I was coachable. Now, we got to ask Coach Bennett that. We got to get him on and see what he said.
Oh, no, we have him on a lot. And, yeah.
Yes. So to me, I thought I was coachable. But back then, you didn't know any better. You just did what the coach said. Coach say you can't have no water before practice. You don't have to drink water before practice. Coach said we're going to wait to enter practice to have water. You're going to do that. But nowadays, our strength coaches, like those guys, we even take breaks in the weight room and have them go snack. So they need an engine, they need a fuel, because I eat breakfast. A lot of people, I have 3 or 4 sons that don't eat breakfast. I have a daughter who don't eat breakfast in the morning. But me, I'm a breakfast person. So it's the way their bodies are different. And, I was always a breakfast person, try to get 3 meals a day, but they can go on 1 or 2 meals, but yet still their nutrition and their recovery is a lot different. You can't go on 1, 2, or 3 meals and expect you to have nutrition and recovery. So our strength and conditioning coaches have those guys eating. Stop what we're doing, go eat, go get a snack so you can get the energy.
Cris Dishman, head coach at Texas Southern University, with us on 365 Sports.
Coach, you've spent some time in these alternate leagues, spring leagues. You've been in the USFL, the XFL. Now there's the combined of the two. There's been various others over the years. CFL, obviously, a mainstay. What has your experience been like? I know you haven't had long stays necessarily, but do you see the value there in those types of leagues? And just do you feel like that's a solid alternative, the options that players have nowadays to continue their career? Just what was that like from your point of view?
Well, what is it, 1,600 players that get drafted? I think around that number. I could
Something
be
like
wrong.
That, yeah.
Yeah, it's about 1,600 players get drafted, but it's almost 32 to 4,000 players out there that want to get drafted. So they got to go play somewhere. And the spring leagues are good for those type of guys who can't get drafted in the NFL, who goes play in the spring league, or who get cut from the NFL team, who's on the last cut and go play in the spring league. It's good money for you, and also keep you in shape. Because how else are you going to get in shape? It's hard to work out alone. It's hard to go in the gym talking about I'm in football shape. You're fooling yourself and everybody else around you, because you can't get in football shape in the gym. You got to play football to get in football shape. So that's a good time. It's a good opportunity to keep yourself in shape.
And that number, by the way, Chris, is like 250 drafted. Now, there's a lot of undrafted as well, so that's even a lower number than we thought. So I have to ask you, when you were doing your opening press conference at Texas Southern, your good friend, Bubba McDowell, who is right across the street at Prairie View, sat in the front row of your press conference, and he kept wanting to ask a question. Did you have fun with that with Bubba?
I did, and I see what Harold and Floyd is on. Let me answer this question real quick, and I'll let them talk about the event coming up. But Bubba and I have been friends for years, and I think, like I said, the first time I ever heard Bubba cuss, he cursed at me, even though he said he didn't. He did. But yeah, Bubba's a charm, and he's trying to figure out what style defense or offense we run. And I told him that we're going to have 22 personnel or 23 personnel each week, and we're going to run that. We're not having no receivers. We have it all running backs and fullbacks. We take it back through the whole day. You know what I'm saying?
One more question on the University of Houston using the Love You Blue, that powder blue Oilers jersey, and they're not going to wear it a lot. What are your thoughts about that the University of Houston will use the color of the great Houston Oilers colors and team?
Well, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I know some people are very upset they're using it, but, that color is a very pretty color. Pretty, it's hard to say pretty in football, but yeah, that's a very unique color, a very pretty color. So if they want to use it and get the old Houston Oilers back up, riled up, I'm okay with it. It's their prerogative to use it. I know the NFL, some of the people in the NFL is not happy with them, but I'm okay with it. I think it's good for the city, expecting them, our neighbors, because they're probably University of Houston and Texas Southern is probably a rock throw away from each other. So I'm good with it. I'm glad my neighbors decided to do it.
Hey, Chris, we're going to move on to Floyd to talk about the event with Mike Rozier. Thank you very much for your time. Garrett, can we just put our graphic up when we talk to Floyd with his audio? Is that possible?
Yeah, I'll do that.
All right. Floyd Johnson is the screen off to the right of Cris Dishman on the air, one of the assistant coaches at Texas Southern University. It's the Mike Rozier Annual Heisman Players Weekend coming up, not this weekend, but next. And Floyd Johnson now joins us on this. And Floyd, you're a part of a lot of events when it comes to professional athletes in the NFL. How much does this mean to you to be a part of this, and also to Mike Rozier and other former Heisman winners, and even what Cris Dishman's doing at TSU?
Well, let me tell y'all, first of all, I want to thank y'all for having us on. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can.
You're on. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I want to thank y'all for having me on, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about my career because the other guy y'all got on here, he's one of the guys that helped me start my career. I actually started with a guy named Moses Malone, the first guy straight out of high school into the pros, first guy with Nike, first guy to make $1 million. That's who actually took me on this wing when I was a kid in 8th grade. Then Mike Rozier in 1985, when he came to the Houston Oilers, he told me to be his promoter, and I laughed because I just say, "What's a promoter?" I didn't know what a promoter was. I was young, but Mike told me to be his promoter, and I tell people that's why I go talk to kids at schools all the time and tell them never quit, because my first 3 years I made no money. I went around with a piece of paper saying I represent Mike Rozier and Moses Malone, blah blah blah. This made no money, but. Two friends of mine at Foot Locker, Champ Sports, and Foot Action. Y'all remember them stores back in the day?
Yes, sir.
Okay. They called their district manager. They had me come over, and I got my break with Cris Dishman. And I'm going to tell you how we became friends. We're best friends. We became friends at the hip on my birthday, July the 5th. Chris came to my house for my birthday. He was a rookie. Mike brought him over there, Mike Rozier. And some kind of way, we done been through thick and thin and 37 years of friendship, and I've been a promoter 39 years. So I tell people all the time, going back to this event, me and Mike started this event 5 years ago because a lot of guys was teasing me, talking about what happened to the Floyd Johnson, the big promoter, the biggest promoter in Texas that do events all around the country. You know how your friends tease you. He don't do all the big events no more. So I say, no, it's hard dealing with these younger players. They different than the older players, Chris and Mike. And Bobby Taylor, Ray Crockett, all them guys. These younger players different. Y'all know that. So I kind of took like 2 years off from promoting. But Mike say, Floyd, let's get all the Heisman guys together and do an event, a golf tournament. I say, Mike, you can get the Heisman guys? He say, yeah, we help each other. We're a fraternity. So we're saying that Mike called all the Heisman guys, had them call me. We started this 5 years ago, playing golf, and a couple of people in town there say, you can get 10 or 15 Heisman guys. I've never seen one Heisman winner, not less known 10 or 15. So it was kind of funny. We've done it with several charities. We had a lot of fun. And this year, we did it 1 year with Mike's charity. Mike had a charity for cancer because his brother died from cancer. So that was a great thing that Mike, did it for the Cancer Foundation. But like I say, it was a thing where it started out 5 years ago, and now at this point, we're doing the Mike Rozier Heisman weekend. It starts off May the 18th. We have a comedy show. Warren Moon is coming in town. John Randall's coming in town. Eric Dickerson, Darryl Green. We got all kind of Archie Griffin, two-time Heisman, Billy Sims, Ron Dane, Eric Crouch, Johnny Rogers, Tim Brown, George Rogers. So we got a great list of players, and these guys are basically doing it for two different charities that we're trying to help out. And one of the great events that I want the public to come to is the Crystal Ballroom downtown on Main and Travis. We're having a poker tournament / dinner. We're going to have people come in and listen to these guys tell their story. All these guys get up on the mic for 5 to 8 minutes and tell how they won the Heisman, or like Warren Moon, he tell how he became a Hall of Famer. And it's great to just hear these guys tell the story because I've been promoting, like I say, 39 years, and I still feel like a kid listening to these guys tell how they made it, this and that. Billy Sims has a great story that he tell when he was in Hooks, Texas, little country town, back in the day. The head coach called him from Oklahoma at halftime of a game and asked the owner of the gas station to get Billy. And Billy ran to the phone. He said, Coach, ain't y'all playing the game? Y'all winning 38-0. He said, that's why I called you, because we blowing them out. And I just want to let you know two things. One, if you come to Oklahoma, you're going to get your degree. Two, you're going to win the Heisman. And I thought Billy was really joking when he said all this stuff standing on the mic. Probably about 7-8 months later, I saw that on 30 for 30 with Billy Sims. I said, oh, man, that was true. Switzer did call Billy Sims doing halftime. So to listen to these guys tell the story, it's like you're like a little kid. You get excited. You be like, man, I'm glad I'm in this room. Great time. You get to eat dinner, play poker, have a great night.
Again, May 18th, 19th, and 20th. There's the comedy show on the 18th and 19th, the poker tournament and dinner that Floyd just mentioned. And that's at the Crystal Ballroom. And also May 20th, the golf tournament, Highland Pines Golf Club. I just put up the link for more information on the come and join this Heisman Trophy winners, Mike Rozier, and many others, including Cris Dishman, the head coach at TSU, and Floyd Johnson, too. You've heard the stories. You didn't quite understand how good Mike Rozier was, did you, when you first met him?
No, I didn't. I laughed because Channel 13, ABC Sports Channel 13 here in Houston, we was there doing an interview last year, and a couple of guys was joking, and they was like, because I met Mike by joking when I said, Mike, you're not a better running back than me. And Mike said, dude, I got the Heisman Trophy. And I said, okay, Mike, whatever. So that's how we became friends back in the day. But Mike, they told me, they said, man, you're more. Mike, was so cold that he never played the second half. I'm like, huh? I've never heard of a player not. He said, yeah, by halftime, Mike had 200 yards already. He let the second and third string running backs play. I told him at the TV station, y'all lying. Mike said, no, Floyd. So I called a few guys, and they say, no, Mike never played the second half because he already had 200 yards by halftime. Yep. I was like, wow. I didn't know my friend was that good.
Yeah, no, he had a dominant year on a team that did not win the national title because of a 2-point conversion was tapped away. Osborne could have kicked the extra point, won it all unbeaten, but Miami, that launched the Miami, that launched the U, and Mike was on that team with Turner Gill and Irving Fryer and many others. Anything else, Floyd, you want to share with our audience about the event? I put the link up, and I'll put it up a couple more times before we're off the show today.
No, I just want to, if anybody want to come down, come on down. We're going to have a great time. These players are so nice. There's some great, and even at the poker tournament and the golf tournament, we got tons of sports memorabilia, jerseys, helmets. I got a Heisman helmet with probably 12 to 15 Heisman autographs on it. We have Warren Moon jersey, Eric Dickerson jersey, John Ryan. We got all these guys' jerseys to auction off. And the only reason why I really didn't say much about the golf tournament because Highland Pines is the newest, nicest golf course in the Houston area, and the golf tournament is almost sold out. We only have 2 more teams we can take to make 36 teams. So if they can get in and get the last 2 teams, good luck. But the golf tournament is going to be great. Everybody's wanting to play there because it's the newest, nicest golf tournament in Houston. So y'all come out and have fun with us. These guys are great guys. And I want to thank my man Cris Dishman for going on there, helping us out. That's my boy. Y'all just don't know. He's one of the greatest guys in the world. That's why he's my boy.
All right. Again, Floyd, thank you for contacting me. John McClain helped set this up as well. Cris Dishman from TSU, Texas Southern University, and the event, not this weekend, but next. The link is up in the chat room. Floyd, thanks for your time, and good luck raising as much as you possibly can.
Thank you, sir, and y'all have a nice day.
Yes, sir. Floyd Johnson, he's at TSU with Cris Dishman. Appreciate the time. Sorry about the camera that was split off, but we got Cris Dishman on, and then also thanks to Floyd for kind of giving more of the information about the upcoming weekend. Mike Rozier and many others that he mentioned who will be there as a part of that event over a 3-day weekend. When we come back, the 3 o'clock hour wrapping up. Also, Cubelic from ESPN will join us just after 4. Colton Thomasson, former A&M offensive lineman who's transferring to Baylor, will join us at around 4:30. Garrett, now we're at the top of the hour. Let's take the break here. Cubelic is next. This is 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com. I sent a picture of the 24 academic all-stars team, the newspaper ad that will be out this weekend, to Rob Maxey, Dr. Rob Maxey at IdealMRI.com, one of our sponsors of the event, and he's like thrilled to death. Appreciated the ability to be a part of it like so many other sponsors do too. He also has what you need if you have something that's bothering you in your back, your neck, your knee, wherever that is painful, and you need an MRI. Your doctor needs a better look at what is going on that lacks, that doesn't allow you to function. Sleep, work, focused, any of the above. IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas marketplace in just off I-35 in the southern part of Waco. $497 or less every single MRI. the average is over $1,100, so you can do the math. IdealMRI.com, finding out what hurts you, giving your doctor a better look at what is bothering you so that he can fix you. He or she can fix you at IdealMRI.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets, sirloin steaks, bone-in ribeyes, boneless ribeyes, and even prime rib. Cut specifically the way you want, the thickness that you want. They're all delicious. They have Norwegian salmon, mahi-mahi, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey, variety of cheese, and several options of sausage links, and even regular jalapeno or cheese snack sticks, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, and ground beef, marinated beef or chicken fajitas, and always large briskets and tri-tip available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and tradition continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, a full-service butcher shop and bakery, open Monday through Saturday. The Bauer family, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Carry On Solutions is a full-service IT management service provider and provides professional services for businesses servicing clients in the U.S. and globally. They are authorized partners with Microsoft, Quest, Veeam, NetApp, HP Enterprise, and Cisco Duo. Whether you are outsourcing IT services, merging companies, or wanting to tackle cybersecurity challenges, contact Carry On Solutions. We are IT. Call or email Dave at 832-437-0138 or sales at Carry On Solutions. That's CARRION Solutions.com.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
We start this 4 o'clock hour. One of our favorite guests, Cole Cubelic, ESPN, joins us with Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, David Smoak. Cole, I could ask you about the whatever might be going on in college athletics, college football, but I want to know, what's it like to coach 6-year-old coach pitch? How much of a challenge was that for you?
It's been a real challenge this year. I wasn't actually the head coach. I decided to help, and you know, there's some moments that you have to step away, and you just kind of realize that things would be better if you weren't involved. And you know, that's probably the hardest part, is having that realization that I need to let somebody else do this, even though you really want to. But my mantra, whether I've helped out with basketball, I've helped out with soccer, I've gone into it with 3 rules, man. Have fun, try hard, don't complain. And I've always taken the approach that if we do those 3 things, it's going to be a good day. We'll figure all the other stuff out as we go. whether it's technique, fundamentals, which way to run after you hit the ball, which base to tag, depending on how many runners are on. We'll get to that at some point. We're 6 years old. It's okay. But we're going to have a good time. We're going to try hard, and we're damn sure not going to complain. That probably should be number one, but I just felt like the have fun part should probably take precedent.
You ever, as the coach, get the temptation to brush a kid back because he's crowding the plate just to teach him, the game?
No, I haven't been the official pitcher yet. I haven't had a chance to do that, and I don't think I would, even if I was granted that opportunity. But I could see where some coaches might be tempted to do that.
Right now, there's so much going on in college athletics, and one of the stories might be the possibility of what the SEC and the Big Ten do. Will there be a breakaway? Will there be whatever's called? Craig brought it up as a Super 2 back several months ago. Do you see that happening, Cole? And if they do, what is the number you think that will be included in that particular scenario?
It's a fair question that I don't really have a good answer for, because I think there are so many different ways that it could go. Right now, I would probably think it would be in the 40s, just based on where the Big Ten and the SEC are, and it feeling like that those two are going to be playing a different game than everybody else. Could I see portions of the Big 12, the ACC, latching on, being pulled away? However, it could potentially happen. Yes. And maybe that gets into, the high 60s. I think that's also feasible. Unfortunately, it might be just a lot of what the TV networks want and how many they think they need. And then that'll dictate, okay, we need 4 more. We need 2 more. You guys need to get to this, which I don't even, to be perfectly honest with you guys, I don't even like to think like that. I'm not naive that none of that is happening. I would like to imagine that these conference commissioners can make decisions like that themselves. And before this last round of realignment, thought that they were making a lot of these decisions for the right reasons. And then I see, we got teams in California that are going to be coming to the Atlantic Coast to play conference games. So, I think we're past all of that now. So, unfortunately, it'll probably come down to just a numbers game of what they think is best to build a schedule out and have that be competitive for brands that people are going to be interested in on a weekly basis when they play one another.
Cole, we had GJ Kenny on the show yesterday, and we asked him about the G5 having their own rankings, and he wasn't quite nuts about that, but he was open as a head coach to say, look, if we're going to do anything, let's just have our own playoff. Do you think that is something that the G5 should consider, considering that the P4 is only going to give them one and never more than one in any of the history of the playoff?
I've been saying for years that it baffles me that there is no leadership that is at least trying to get out in front of finding a way for the group of 5 to be sustainable with whatever is next. And that might be, as you guys discussed, 32 teams, 65 teams, I don't know, whatever that is. But there are going to be some teams left behind. I think the Pac-12 is a perfect example of that and what just happened. Oregon State, I think you would agree with me. I'm not saying it's Alabama or Notre Dame. That's a quality brand. That's a school and a place that has given us good players, good teams, competitive ball, intriguing ball, and now they're just sitting there. So Washington State, same thing. And I for the longest time, this has been essentially the 25-year-old downstairs that doesn't want to move out. And his parents are paying his bills, and he's got his parents' credit cards, and they're making the car payment, and they're stocking the shelves in the pantry and the refrigerator. Why would he move out? Because he's getting all this stuff, and that number that has trickled down to the group of 5, whether it be from the BCS or the college football playoff or just the bowl system revenue that comes down, it's been getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So I don't think it's an intentional trying to wean them off of it, but at some point in time, it's going to be 0. We're going to get to a point where these bigger brands, be it 2, 3, 4 of them, whatever it is, how many ever it is, are going to say, enough is enough. We're not sharing this with you anymore because you don't determine who our national champion is, and you don't have a very large determination on how many people tune into our product and help us generate revenue. So therefore, something else has to happen. Somebody's got to come up with something. Somebody has to look at this and say, what can be sustainable next? And absolutely a playoff is. We had Trent Dilfer on our show from the Regions tradition here, a senior golf tournament in Birmingham that we have every year. And we asked him about it, and he kind of said the same thing, more along the lines of he didn't know much about it. He said, from what I've heard, I think it's great. And you think about the fact of, okay, when we get action on a Tuesday night, or we get, whatever it is, the Sun Belt on a Thursday night, and all of a sudden that's number 1 versus number 6, or number 2 versus number 4, that's a different game. Even if it's a different poll and it's a different level of football. I mean, you guys are probably like me. When you see an FCS game on and it's 1 versus 3, it's a little bit more. Like I'm like, all right, I want to see what's going on here. Like, give me more on these teams. I want to know about them. So I think it's a very, very tiny step in the right direction for the group of 5, because the main thing I think it does is show some awareness that, hey, we are different. This is not a level playing field as much as we would like it to be. And nobody's saying that they can't find a way to win certain games on certain days. It's just from a resource standpoint, we know it's not right. We know it's not even, and we know it's not fair. So begin to try to find something that's more compelling. And I just really believe that we could have had some really good football if you're talking about a group of 5 playoff over the last 5, 8, 10 years, whatever that was. If you're talking about Coastal Carolina or Liberty or Troy or Louisiana Lafayette when Billy and those guys were there. I mean, there have been, I would love to have watched it. And I think that there are different ways to market it. I think there are different windows to put it in that people would watch it. And it could be sustainable. It's just, you're probably going to need some real money on the front end to get it going.
Cole, you're deep in the heart of SEC country. You're an Auburn guy. You know the league like the back of your hand. While we're sitting here speculating about kind of the bigger universal topics in college sports right now, obviously realignment's always one of those things that's in play, especially with the ongoing lawsuits. The Big Ten, they've clearly, like, they're beyond a certain footprint. They're across half the country now with their West Coast acquisitions. The SEC to me is like the perfect geographical fit, and I hope it is able to maintain that. But let's just say all hell breaks loose. What schools? When I hear all these people speculating about, Virginia, North Carolina, Clemson, whoever, who goes where, as an SEC guy, who makes sense actually being in that league beyond where they are right now that would actually fit and make sense and not necessarily just turn it into kind of what the Big Ten's becoming all over the map?
Yeah, I think it would be Virginia Tech, because I think that fan base, I think the culture of that program, that university is very SEC-like. I think Florida State, I think Clemson would also be there. Miami, I'm going to say yes. And here's the other part of this, and this is one thing that's very confusing to me. I was going to say 2 things. One, you guys brought up Virginia. I have no idea the hows and whys of Virginia. I hear certain things about certain people that want them and why they want them, and I can't figure it out. And listen, I played against a really good Virginia team when I was in college. They smoked us in Auburn. We beat them the previous year, but they had Anthony Poindexter and Jerome Dingle as defensive tackle. Like they were a very good football team. But now I don't understand, why some people, we hear these rumors about certain leagues reaching for Virginia, like they have to have them. It doesn't make a ton of sense. And then the Miami part is, then you'll start hearing people say, well, they're not going to be a good academic match for the SEC. They're more of an academic fit for the Big Ten. Folks, let's just stop that, okay? I don't know why outside of the Ivy League, I don't know why we're having any discussions about being an academic fit anywhere. It's not what it's about. At the end of the day, nobody really cares. And, whether it's the AAU accreditation, whatever, I think it's silly to even talk about that being a determining factor of surviving in this new age of college athletics when you're going to probably have to stay at the front of the pack and find ways to keep up with the Joneses. It's just not real, in my opinion. So I do think probably going further into Texas and, a school like Baylor, I think would be one that you would look at and say, yep, feasible, possible. TCU, maybe. Texas Tech, I think, is one that would also be considered. There, I think, as you guys know, probably going to be some other schools that try to throw some weight around and don't let those things happen. But I think we're also past that portion of it too a little bit. The Florida fans, there's always this, Florida will never let Florida State in. South Carolina's never going for a Clemson to get in. We're going to be past that pretty soon. where it's going to be, hey, they're coming, or we'd be more than happy for you guys to exit and find somewhere else to go, handle your business. And
they're already there when they let Texas in for A&M.
100%. That's a great point. Because there are a lot of people that would tell you that A&M would have never gone for that. Mm-hmm. And guess what?
Yeah.
Here's the door. Don't let it hit you. That's what we're going to start hearing in the future.
We all kind of glanced at each other. We cover the Big 12. We're right here in Waco. When you mentioned Baylor and TCU, a couple of private schools, that kind of surprised me that they would be in that mix. They've had a pretty nice run, although lately the last couple of years has not been good. You do think that Baylor and TCU would be given at least the opportunity to think about to talk about it?
I do think they would be vetted, yes, because I think the branding is strong. I mean, I think it's going to be the number one thing moving forward. It's one of the reasons when the Big 12 realignment happened this last time, there were a lot of people that kind of poo-pooed on BYU and didn't understand BYU and why BYU, and I didn't know what people were talking about. It's one of the strongest national brands that there is in collegiate athletics. Now, that doesn't mean that they're one of the most successful or one of the scariest, but I mean, you guys know like I do, BYU resonates a lot of places for a lot of reasons. So that was a brilliant move to bring BYU in. I do think that we have gotten a little bit past, the geographical teams that make the most sense. But I also think Greg Sankey values it, and I think he does want teams and universities in the footprint, and that footprint is now in Texas, so that's going to be a place that you look. And also, guys, we're going to be out here before long. If the Big Ten makes another big move, and let's just say they were to go get Clemson and Florida State and Miami, or something along those lines, and you have to sort of match that, or you have to counter that. I mean, there's only so many places you can go. And I think you're going to have to keep up somewhat from a numbers game perspective. All right, if they get to 28 or 30, like we can't stay at 16 or maybe even at 18. Like we might have to go past 20 to just even keep up with where they're going, what they're doing, and how they're doing it. So there's got to be schools that don't exactly fit what we've been looking for or thinking about that would be in certain places, certain conferences for the last 20 or 30 years, because that's not what it's going to be anymore.
Cole Cubelic, ESPN SEC Network, with us on 365 Sports.
So, Cole, we've got a big show today. I mean, you're on here for one. We got some other guests as well. But, man, you were talking to some folks today. Kirby Smart and Nick Saban and Trent Dilfer and a few other folks. For one, any surprise at all about how great Saban did in his early media sessions there with the NFL draft? And man, what a day. Guest lineup-wise, who was the most interesting? Charles Barkley on that list as well.
There you go.
Chuck was the only one that didn't make it on that list. He had some flight issues, so he didn't get in, and he is by far our most entertaining guest when we go to this tournament every year. I'm thankful that the folks at the Regions Tradition have us. They do great work in our community. A lot of the money that they generate goes to Children's Hospital in downtown Birmingham, which is just exceptional. It's an amazing facility. But yeah, Coach Saban was great. We were both very complimentary of what he did at the draft. And, he kind of talked about the work that he put into it. And he said, hey, I didn't have anything else going on. So, he actually gave me something to do. He's been playing a lot of golf, apparently getting some lessons. Told us he played with Mark Ingram and Tua recently at a course down in Florida. And we asked him about kind of the future of college football, and he went to a place that I often go. He brought up litigation and basically just said that there's going to have to be some protection from litigation. And it's one of the things that I default to when people have these ideas of, hey, I think all we need to do for NIL is this, or all we need to do for the portal is this. And the first thing that I say is lawsuit. You're going to get sued. That's all it is. And whether the NCAA already tried to hire Thomas Mars and it didn't work. He's already back out suing them. So I agree with him that it's going to take something along those lines to protect it down the road. We had Kirby Smart on today. He was in a little bit of a hurry, but he was great. Told us that his off-season emphasis has been defending mobile quarterbacks, which I thought was interesting. You look down that schedule, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. A guy at Mississippi State and Blake Shapen that you guys know very well. I know they want to run him. But if they don't have a backup quarterback that they have any confidence in, they're not going to run him as much. You look at Auburn and Peyton Thorne, he can be just dangerous enough to force you to defend it. Obviously, Jalen Milroe. A lot of teams on that schedule that could be a problem with, and then maybe in the playoffs as well. So I thought that was interesting. Kalen DeBoer told us that the footwork of Jalen Milroe's gotten a lot better through the spring. That's where he improved the most. Said he loves the attitude of his team, the work, the habits of his team. Said he didn't want to go so far as to say they feel rejuvenated, but they do have a little bit of a new energy. And I think that's part of the demeanor. I think that's part of his personality. And because it is very new for everyone around there, I talked to a couple of guys in that facility that are they almost don't know what to do with themselves every day because things are so different. But that's Kalen's personality. It doesn't mean that they're not going to have success. It's just he manages things in a very different way. Talked to Hugh Freeze. We actually asked Hugh Freeze about some of these Brian Kelly comments, which I think are getting a little bit misconstrued.
Yep.
I think people are taking this as Brian Kelly is saying, we're not going to help anyone with NIL ever. And that's not what he said. I think what he says is, we're not just going to guys that want to check and they're going to decide the highest bidder and that's going to be it. And by the way, what Brian Kelly said, most college coaches think the exact same way. And it's just that they want guys that fit their system, that they like their personality, that they like their scheme. Hugh told us, hey, he said there was a $1.2 million quarterback out there that we could have gone after. We thought we could have gotten, but I wanted to try to build the depth of my roster and the quality of my roster with the players and the kids and do it a different way. And I think that's the right way to do it for him right now. Stay with the quarterback that's been in your system for a year, try to grow him a little bit, try to fundamentally help him, and then see where you can go, see what you can do. So we had some great conversations. I told you guys Trent Dilfer was with us. We talked about that top 25 poll for the group of five, and he recently sort of teed his team up with I'll use air quote fingers, Players Association, which I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not, but there's not a Players Association in college right now, but there are multiple facets that like to tell you that they are one, which I guess now that UAB has signed up for it, that would make them a real one, even though there are no rights for them to bargain over. I don't know how you can call yourself that. That's like me saying I own a radio station, but we don't actually broadcast anything. What are we doing? So, but it's always fun out there. It's really cool. And I'm thankful to be out there every year. And then you got to talk to Jake Peavy about Shohei Ohtani, which was one of our cooler conversations that we actually had. So to hear a guy that won the Cy Young Award say that this is probably the greatest baseball player that's ever lived, like it's one thing for you guys to say it or for me to say it, and we have fun with it or we debate it. But like a guy who pitched at a high level to say that, and that he really believes that, I mean, that's a little different. And so that was a really impressive conversation as well.
Cole, I know you're busy. Great, like Craig said, what an incredible lineup, and thanks for feeding a lot of that information to our audience and to us. I was going to ask you this to close it out. Are you worn out with all the lawsuits? But you kind of went into that with what Saban was discussing. Are you numb to it? Is it almost to the point where it's taken away from the game?
It's not taken away from the game, so I still think the product is good. I think the product is great. The numbers are up. And I think some of the things, and I believe it or not, I actually do watch you guys a lot of my mornings when I'm doing my show prep and listen to some of the things that you said the day before. And I think you guys would understand this like I do. A lot of the things that we construe as negative or perceive as negative, be it the portal, be it NIL, all these different things, unlimited transfers, that has given us, you guys, me and Greg, other podcasts, whatever, that's given us an NFL news cycle. It's year round. It's every single day.
Yep.
I mean, Greg and I sat back and talked a couple of times like, man, these have been the best two off seasons in the history of the sport, because we have stuff to talk about all the time. And whether it's realignment, whether it's playoff, whether it's going to another playoff, whether it's TV rights, coaches moving, portal, players in different places, who's going to win, how are they going to get in, group of five changing over. Like, it's so much. It's a lot. I don't focus on those things. I'm much more into the actual football portion of it. I realize it's there. I know it's there. I'm not necessarily numb to it, but I also think that most viewers, listeners are becoming numb to it, so they don't necessarily want to hear us break it down every day.
That's a great point.
I think there are places that they can go and get that. There are going to be articles that they can go read. But hearing people that have relationships like you guys do, like we do, that know football and have watched and consumed football like we have, those are the opinions that they want to hear us share. I don't think that they want to hear us talking about, these lawsuits out in California with a tennis player and a swimmer that's trying to, have players become, college football athletes become employees. Like, first and foremost, for those sports to do that is asinine, but that's a topic for a whole nother show.
Cole, thanks for the compliments, and also with what you do. And it's a loud podcast like what we do, what you do as well with Greg. And it's been an unbelievable 3 or 4 year run since Texas OU and beyond. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Continued great luck, and appreciate your time today.
I always appreciate you guys. Holler anytime you need anything.
Cole Cubelic, ESPN SEC Network college football analyst. I like what he said at the end, not just because it was about us, but what people come to us for. And then there's the stories that probably can just get a little bit out there.
I watch a lot of his stuff too.
Yeah, they do a good job.
Yeah.
He and Greg McElroy. But yeah, I think that's something to be mindful of too. When you have those days where you're like, more loss. It's like, would you rather just have like the who's on your Mount Rushmore of, because that's what it was back in the day. I mean, honestly, it was. So I think it is good to have a reminder. But you heard it here first. Baylor to the SEC, book it. No,
that got an interesting response in the chat room.
I don't agree, but I understand like kind of what he was trying to
if you're gonna break down and have a major conference that's controlled by the SEC and the Big Ten, and they have to have so many the thing is, when you're going to do that, like, everybody thinks that you can do it with the teams they have right now. Well, that's not enough inventory for the television contracts that they have.
Yeah.
It's not even close to enough. Now, could they trim some of the fat and push it off into other things, especially streaming? Yes, but they would need probably 50 teams or so to make it work to fill out the inventory that they'd want.
Yeah, the inventory thing gets brought up depending on, kind of, I guess, what the situation is and I guess who's talking. But it does get overlooked quite a bit of like just sudden. So all these live sports are just going to go to the wayside? Of course not. Like, now the affiliations might be different, of course, but yeah, there's still going to be a demand for football games in the fall. Like, that's not going to change. There's still going to be football starting Tuesday night, Thursday night, so on and so forth, and all day Saturday. So yeah, there's going to be a need, especially the bigger you get. Yeah, you're going to have to find teams somewhere. You're not going to just create them out of thin air. So I can see, like I said, where he was coming from there, but I can see also where somebody's listening, just dropping in, be like, wait, what? Baylor to the SEC or TCU or whatever. But yeah, that's more of that risk as far as like the game goes, that part of the conversation that you can get into, the whole land grabs of realignment that can be kind of entertaining. And
money, revenue, attendance, all of that we talked about. But Cole works and does a lot with the SEC, not works for them, but the SEC network. And that, you and I looked at each other when he said that. Some people in the chat room thought it was silly. Cole Cubelic doesn't throw out crap. He doesn't just throw things against the wall. He was just looking at the possibilities if, in fact, there's that next move.
Yeah, he's not reporting anything by any means, just speculating like everybody else is. But with his reasoning laid out, which I can appreciate rather than just saying it to say it. And I really wanted to ask him about the whole SEC footprint and all the talk about like who fits where. And you see so much of that, like, well, Virginia, of course, they're going to be wanted by so-and-so, and they're going to be this, and they're going to be that. And there's a whole lot of like, what do you call it? Like absolutes about like them or a couple of the other schools there in the ACC that sometimes I just kind of like, I don't know, like kind of really playing up Virginia a lot here because I don't know. I think back on my entire history, and I don't know how much they've really affected my college football.
When I think of Virginia, I think of Ralph Sampson.
Right, it's not even football.
They won it recently. They have a hell of a basketball.
Locationally, you get it, but it's also like you're kind of making them out to be something that they've never really been and aren't. In some cases, again, depending on what you're looking at.
I think of they're the team that ended Florida State's ACC winning streak.
Oh, there you go.
Stopped Warwick down on a fourth down. Although, kind of like if they've been reviewed, maybe they get that. But I'm not going to say that next to you.
You are not allowed to go there, ever.
Actually, I think that was that same year or that year after.
Wow, I do think there's a lot. Topic turns to Florida State.
Yeah, no, but like that's how like that's what I think of. That's what I think of them when I think of that. So and again, they haven't been particularly relevant at all. And I don't know what their television, like, again, somebody's going to get the top 100 list of television ratings, and they're going to pair them up, and they're going to say, okay, well, that's
not exactly how it works.
No, but I mean, like, they're going to, eventually, they're going to start picking up brands, and then, like, the things that are going to break you there, like, is Virginia going to get a lot of television ratings? No. Like, have they? No, so that they're going to be in the chart, like, down a point because of that.
Yeah,
so
I just think in terms of attractive
don't bring
brands,
up AAU and academics and stuff like that.
There's people creating like academic conferences based on that, and there's others that are creating football conferences, and so we'll see in the end what all that looks like, if it's even close to what's being talked about. But it is interesting, and I do feel like there's a lot of Virginia Tech slander or disrespect. And maybe I'm just biased because I'm a 90s kid, so I saw Beamer ball and saw what a big deal that was. But like I do feel like they just get sort of like over, like we just jump over them, or not we, but it's like they don't even get factored in. And like, shit, excuse me, but welcome to the Big 12. Like, I'd bring Virginia Tech on in this bad point and be like, hell yeah, let's go.
Who'd be the happiest guy in the world? Mike Dewey, who helped set up the tailgate initially parties at Baylor back in the day.
I'd be all for Tech in the Big 12. I think that'd be great. So, yeah, if you don't want them, then I think there'd be others that'd be happy to scoop up the Hokies.
All right. We have Colton Thomasson around the corner. Garrett, since Cole brought this up, let's go to the top 30 that Brandon Marcello put out earlier today. And again, everybody, I can have one. Garrett can have one. You see most of the same logos that you would normally see, with a couple that might be sneaking in and a couple. Who is missing? And I know I'm not giving you much time here. Who among what are considered the alpha logos is missing here? Miami's at 16. They've been playing around, trying to get back in it. Oklahoma, a little lower than normal, but again, there's that SEC. Ole Miss at 4. Very interesting.
It's interesting Washington's not on there, but I understand why, because of all the turnover that they had. But definitely interesting to see them missing there. Just because that's just the first brand I thought of that's not on there.
Where's the Fighting Irish?
Yeah, they're not on there either, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, top 30?
Yeah. No,
I'd say they're a top 30 brand, so maybe that's just trying to see, is there any fine print that says, like, independent's not allowed on there? I don't think so.
No, because Liberty's at 30.
Well, Liberty's in a conference now.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. No, it was straight up. There's Arizona still a part of it. It not quite as high as they would be had there not been a coaching change. They're in it.
I would put Notre Dame over Iowa right now.
I'd put them over Liberty.
Yeah, Liberty, yeah.
I think
I'd put them over Iowa State. I'd put them over, like, a lot of schools on there.
And
Nebraska.
Again, yes, me too. But at the same time, it was just nice to see a top 30. I know that Ari Wasserman from theathletic.com did one, and he's done some segments. I invited him on. He wasn't available. But I just thought it was kind of neat that we can look at that and think, oh, my God, okay, what's LSU going to do? Tennessee, Clemson, et cetera. It's just a football poll, and it's one of 100 that will be put out in the next 5 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, maybe I need to do some more work on Notre Dame. Maybe they're not deserving of being over, like, Iowa State, comparison to comparison. But I definitely think they're a top 30 team in the country entering next season, even what questions they may have. I feel pretty confident in saying that, but I think when you have a top 30, you pretty much covered all the bases here. There's not really anybody that I see that's just an obvious oversight. I mean, every time I think of, like, Iowa's, nope, there they are. Oklahoma State, nope, there they are. I think everybody's kind of accounted for. It's the order, really, that I guess you could argue most over. But, even with, obviously, we circle back to the Big 12. I mean, there's Arizona, there's Oklahoma State, there's Kansas, there's West Virginia, there's Iowa State, there's Utah. Who's not on there? Kansas State's on there. I think that about covers it, honestly, as far as, like,
where's
actual
Texas
legit
Tech?
contenders. I don't think they're necessarily a given to be on the top 30, but if you're doing like 35, 40, then certainly I think that you could say, again, where's Texas Tech?
It's 30. That means it's not 31. It also means this is Brandon Marcello's. And it's now. It's not what it will be, but just kind of throw it out there, fun to discuss football.
Everybody knows, yeah.
I'll tell you, I like a lot of it, but Louisville there, to me right now with Tyler Shuck, I mean, and look, when Tyler Shuck's healthy, he's a very serviceable quarterback.
That if is carrying a lot of weight, though, man.
Like, they are, they are, going to be white-knuckling it every time he gets tackled, every time he gets bumped into, and all that, because he has just not been healthy. Now, hopefully for him, he's got an Alan Bowman-like health resurgence in him where he can make it through a whole year, but that has not happened to this point in his college career. And I'm not sure about Louisville's depth behind him. And the reason I'm not is you wouldn't take the risk of a guy who is so fragile if you were confident in that going into the year.
Yeah. By the way, that's a good point. USC, I was like, okay, wait, who is 8? I couldn't quite see, but there's SC, USC, and Lincoln Riley at number 8.
Yeah, Louisville will be a good one to say that could be on the outside looking in. Texas Tech, I think, though, with Texas Tech, it's better to not be mentioned here. You've had some of the hype, and you're going to have some more of it. I mean, that's a team that's expected to be good, but as Joey McGuire said, and you kind of get the feeling around the program, like they're gonna hype it up, and you're gonna know that they're out and about. Like they do a great job of awareness and making sure that they're noticed and recruiting and things like that. But they also understand that the wins have to match that for it to be as meaningful as it can be. And I think that last year was a little bit of I don't know if it was even a full step back, but it was as far as wins go from the previous year, just by one game. So that's not alarming or anything, but I do think you're in a spot where you have to go out and prove and say yes, you need to go win 8-9 games again this year to kind of show, I think, that this is in fact going forward the way that it appears like it is, and it's not just kind of getting lost in how fun it all kind of is around the program. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I think until they do that, it's more than fair to not have them as a top 30 team. And they lost a lot, but certainly I think when it comes to the Big 12, it's going to be a total crapshoot. I mean, if you were to put them in there or say that they're going to have a really good year and be in the mix, I'd totally buy that, because I think beyond Utah, who's on pretty solid footing, and all the schools mentioned here, I think they're all rightfully sitting there with a case to be made of why they could be in the mix there at the very end. And, there's going to be somebody we're not thinking of, and maybe that team's Texas Tech, or maybe it's a TCU. It's hard to say right now. Yeah,
in the chat room, certain fan base types, bringing up stats of this and that. Like Kim Coulter, Texas Tech has 43 bowl appearances. Which big school has more? Nobody. And I get that, but at the same time, what does that have to do with this year? It may not, because Nebraska's got 5 national titles, but we know damn sure who they are. Although that's why I brought up Tech. They're not in the top 30. It's one poll. We'll see what happens. And like you said, Craig, it might be better for them just under the radar, at least early on in the year. All right, when we come back, he's made the decision to transfer to Baylor. They need, what Paul and Craig does Baylor need in football as far as position-wise? Besides a lot of things. Big boys, right?
Running back, quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker. No, they really need linemen on both sides of the football.
They do, and they got a commitment from a former highly ranked player out of Smithson Valley High School, just south or in between San Antonio and Austin. Colton Thomasson, who's on vacation, gave me a few minutes earlier today that interview with him next on 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace. Yes, 30-pound sacks of live crawfish. You have an hour and a half, less than that, to order now, today, before 6, 30-pound sacks of live crawfish, and pick it up anytime after 4 Friday or throughout the day when they're open on Saturday. In fact, I had Randy Crook, great friend from Goodfellas, contact me earlier today. They're having a huge live crawfish boil out at one of the sports bars in the area, and I'll have more information on that. And when he called, I said, if you get it, you guys go to Waco Custom Meats Marketplace. He goes, that's where we get our crawfish. But other specials this week, tomahawk ribeye steak. Have you ever seen one of those? I mean, it's a handful. It looks like a billy club. It's like what the Vikings ate when they ate steak. $15.99 a pound. Tri-tip, $4.99 a pound. Mahi-mahi, $10.50 a pound. Pork spare ribs at $2.25 a pound. St. Louis-style spare ribs at $2.75 a pound. And prime brisket at $4.75 a pound, along with much more. They have a full-service butcher shop, full-service bakery, and also the necessities you need for pretty much anything you're cooking at any time of the day or week. Waco Custom Marketplace, the Bauer family, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. It's Dodge Power Shot Days, continuing at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco with some of the hottest deals of the year, starting with the new 2024 Dodge Hornet GT all-wheel drive for $29,999. Or how about the 2023, the new Dodge Charger SXT all-wheel drive for $30,990. And the 2023 Dodge Challenger GT at $31,487. How about the 2023 Dodge Charger SXT for $28,925 during Dodge Power Shot Days? If you like extreme, they've got extreme power with the Demon 170 with over 1,000 horsepower. Pop a wheelie straight from the manufacturer and also run on jet fuel. Allen Samuels has one of those last ones left in the country. Call it the last call model, as Dodge will not build the V8 Hemis in 2024. If you want cutting-edge technology, come by and drive the 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited 4xe. Save over $13,000 in values. 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland 4xe and save over $15,000 in values. These two world-class SUVs run on battery or gas with world-class technology. Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340, east of 84 in Waco. Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, entering the last week of the Jeep Celebration event with unbelievable deals like a 2023 Jeep Compass Trailhawk for $29,990, a 2023 Jeep Renegade. This is at Allen Samuels in Waco for $25,714. How about the most decorated SUV ever, a 2023 Grand Cherokee Summit with over $13,000 off MSRP. That's right, a 2023 Grand Cherokee Summit with over $13,000 off MSRP. The latest addition to the Dodge family, the 2023 Dodge Hornet GT, loaded up $37,525, all prices plus tax, title, and license. Ted Teague, the CEO and general manager, he and his staff put together amazing values along with dealership brands as well. You have an opportunity to get the vehicle you want right now. Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco. Samantha Duvall, TexasBeefHouse.com with me, David Smoak. And tell you what, you guys keep rolling along. You do have yet another date, correct, for an online and live auction?
Yes, our next online and live auction will be Thursday, April 25th.
We've discussed how this has been unique and how people have reacted to it. Has that momentum continued as you've done more?
Yes, it's kind of half and half. We'll have a good amount of people there that are from the area, and then we have probably 40% that we ship out. And everybody that I've delivered locally to has talked about how much fun they had, and they want to know when the next one's going to be. We've gotten great feedback from the people that we've shipped to. They're all just so excited about this event, and they can't wait for the next one to happen.
Premium grade East Texas beef. Customers don't have to go out and buy their beef. TexasBeefHouse.com. From their family and their ranch to your plate. TexasBeefHouse.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Our good friend Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jewelers here at 365 Sports. Now, Brad, people who watch and listen to our show know I'm a double-time customer for you, engagement ring and wedding band, and you guys do that great, but that's not all you do at Boozer's Jewelers.
Absolutely, and I always like to say, it's a new year. It's a great way to start the year out. Go through your old jewelry. Go through your wife's jewelry box. Go through anything you're maybe not wearing, something that's broken, something that you're not using. We do a massive amount of custom work. We can take your old jewelry, old diamonds, old watches, and we can convert it into something special for you and make a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry. And if that's not something you're interested in, a great thing is we can turn that into cash. So we buy gold, we buy diamonds, we'll buy Rolex watches, any kind of heirloom jewelry, anything that's maybe passed down to you.
Boozer's Jewelers, where do they find you, Brad?
We're at 1025 North Valley Mills Drive, right on the corner of Lake Air Drive and Valley Mills with the big clock on the corner.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The Baylor Bear Hotline is sponsored by Richard Carr Motors, people you can count on. Baylor offensive lineman Colton Thomasson with us, was at A&M, now with Baylor. And everybody that knows Baylor football, that they need some bodies and also some players on the offensive and defensive line. Colton, thanks for your time. Why Baylor?
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, I chose Baylor because it's a place that I thought I would have loved playing at since I was a kid. You know, they recruited me since I was 12 years old under Coach Rule and Coach DeLeon, and I just felt at home there. And I'm excited to come help the Baylor Bears win some ball games this fall. So,
by the way, for anyone that doesn't know how committed Colton was, or at least maybe I'm just one of those that's a little bit crazy. He's on vacation and still found a way not to block my number so we could do this interview so Baylor fans could hear from you. What did the coaching staff at Baylor with Dave Aranda, Mason Miller, and all them, what have they told you?
Yeah, they told me they see a lot of upside in me. They're excited to get me under them to develop me. And I'm going to come in June 2nd, I believe, is the report date, and work hard for them this summer and go make an impact as immediately as I can this fall.
Do you care what position you play? I know besides the obvious of the offensive line group.
No, sir. I'm coming in right now starting at tackle, but played every single position on the offensive line in college. I've even snapped sometimes. Not that anybody would need a 6'9" center, but I could do it if needed.
That would be unique, huh? So, 6'9" center. They couldn't, you know what? They just stick you right there in the middle. Nobody's going to come through and block a field goal or an extra point or a punt, most likely, when you just take up all that space. So what the decision to leave A&M, it's part of college football today. The transfer portal is just wide open. And, yeah, there are certain timelines. What was the decision for you on leaving A&M? Was it because Baylor was interested, you were still interested in them? Or how did all that go about?
I have a lot of love for Texas A&M, and I think Coach Elko and Coach Cushing are going to do a great job this fall. And I'll always love my Aggie, the 12th man of the Aggies, but I just had to do what was best for me in terms of my development and helping teams win games.
So you say your development, where are you, and what do you feel like is your strength, and what are some things that you feel like you got to get better at doing?
Yeah, so I'd say my biggest strength, it's something I've always prided myself on, is my work ethic and drive. If you know anything about my story, I lost 100 pounds when I was a sophomore. I was 400 pounds at 16, and I got down to around 315-ish. And then most recently, I lost even more weight to try and make it right for Texas A&M. So I believe I can bring that in and do whatever's needed of me to the best of my ability and put 120% in. And so that way it can replicate on the field come, September?
Yep, absolutely. First game against Tarleton State in September,
yes,
and then they play at Utah, which is kind of a weird, I think it's a non-conference game despite Utah being a part of the Big 12 because of that game was already scheduled. So let me ask you this about your journey with your weight, your body. Was there a time when you ever how would you describe why you were so heavy, and how hard was it? Because I've lost weight in my lifetime, like 80, 90 pounds over a few years and have been able to keep it off. Tell me about how you got to be so large, and what was the decision, and how difficult was it to get to where you are, and now you've lost even more?
So, yeah, it was always a dream of mine to go play in the NFL. And to do that, you have to play in college first. And I was still heralded as a big recruit when I was a freshman. Then COVID hit, and I was still working out a ton, but I wasn't eating right. I was just doing poor diet tendencies. Like I would go to Whataburger, get 2 double meats, and that was normal, And then because of that, I got up to 400 pounds. Had a good sophomore season, but, not a lot of people want to touch a guy that's 400 pounds. And I stepped up on the scale after that season and saw I almost got up to 410. And I just realized that I need to do this, A, to achieve my dream, and B, to be healthy long term. That's not sustainable, especially that trajectory that I was going on. So, yeah, I just that day that I saw that, I committed to myself, and I changed my diet up, and I started running and doing a whole lot of jump ropes. And then 6 months later, I was primed, ready to go for different college camps.
You had offers from everywhere. Anywhere that you wanted to go, you could have just picked it. You mentioned A&M, obviously Baylor, other big-time schools in the South, and even I think Michigan State were a part of that too. All-American, first-team All-State, all of that. Even if you never played another down of football, which is your goal, what did you learn about yourself losing that kind of weight? Because that's hard to do. You've got to be committed to doing that.
Yes, you 1,000% do. And it's not easy. I remember days where it was 30 degrees outside, pouring rain. And I was like, man, I just really don't want to do this. But I just remembered, like, hey, this is the goal. This is what you want to achieve. You can go do this. And I'd power through it. And, yeah, I think the biggest thing I learned about myself is that there's a lot more in my tank at that time than I thought, and then it's only increased from there.
So, all right, Baylor last year struggled. The year before that, they didn't finish very well. And then of 21 and 2021, they were the best team they've ever had. How much did you keep an eye on them? And obviously being recruited by them recently during that time. And really, did you know that they needed offensive linemen even before anyone contacted you, or did you contact them first?
No, this past, I obviously keep up with college football, but I was with the Aggies, so I was pretty focused on the Aggies.
Right.
I didn't know what the needs were for Baylor, and then obviously I got the call, and it's a big blessing. So yeah, they contacted me when I hit the portal. There wasn't any tampering or anything like that, and got in touch with them, and ball got rolling from there. All right, so you're going to come be on campus in early June, starting the off-season or summer workouts. To have that kind of size and that kind of and to lose that kind of weight, and then also have the muscle. They need you. I mean, do you understand that nothing wrong with the guys that are there, but that one of the things coming out of it was that they need more bodies on the offense and defensive line. Did you know that? That's kind of what I found out once I was starting to look in here and eventually making my decision. Colton Thomasson, now Baylor offensive line commit, will enroll this summer. Former Texas A&M offensive lineman, played at Smithson Valley. Larry Hill was the coach, the legendary Larry Hill, right? Yes, sir. He was unbelievable. I had him on a high school podcast last week. I'm a lot older than you, as you can imagine. I played at Universal City Randolph High School when Smithson Valley had just first opened. I'm not going to even get into the time base of back. I'll just say it was in the mid to late 70s. That's how old I am. And obviously the Rangers have been very, very successful. What did you learn during your time with Coach Hill and playing for what is a tradition-rich perennial power? Yeah, Coach Hill, he's done a fantastic job. He's one of the all-time Texas coaching greats for a reason. I love him, and I loved his program the most because of what it built in me. There's teams that are always these big time powerhouses. And they build football players. SU does that, but what it does even better is that it makes better men, and it really separates you when you get to college. Smithson Valley, they pride themselves on having really good discipline and effort and tradition. Like, we would have to not have facial hair, and we had to wear long white socks. All had to be uniform, all had to do these tiny little things that were just drilled into our head from when we were kids. And that allowed us to be able to work harder and work longer than other teams. And we would outwill teams and beat them when about 50 or 60% of the time they were probably better than us on paper. And so, yeah, he just instilled that hard work and discipline in me. And when I got to college, it really helped translate it, really helped separate me. I don't think you could have described it any better. You lived it right there at Smithson Valley High School. And Coach Hill and I discussed that last fall when he joined my show. Colton, you're on vacation and trying to decompress a little bit while I try to also bother you. How much was it to make the decision, the relief of that, and then being able to get away for the most part? Yeah, it all kind of worked out perfectly. As soon as I made the decision, I started heading down towards the beach, and it's really nice, because it's been a wild 14 days. But it's now to an end. I now see where my future is, and it's in Waco, and I'm super pumped for it. And now I just get to sit down here, relax, celebrate a little bit that I figured out this decision, and then once we get back, start working at it so I can go help the Bears win some games this fall.
Mason Miller's the new offensive line coach. I brought him up earlier. You did too. Let me know about his discussion with you, other than what we've already talked about, and how much did he have an impact in your decision to come to Baylor?
Yeah, Coach Miller is an awesome guy. We kind of clicked as soon as we got talking to each other, and I think he's a great coach. He's developed a lot of guys and put them into the league, and I think he do the same with me. And so I'm excited to get to work under him.
All right, last thing. I'm going to go back to you being focused and disciplined enough to lose weight because you had to, and also just for your health. You would go and get a couple of double fat burgers is what I call them, right? That's what I used to get. I would not only do that, but then I'd always get the large fries and then a milkshake, whatever.
Needed.
How difficult, because you got to have protein and you got to have some stuff, and you got to feed that 9 whatever amount of pounds body. How difficult is it not to slip? And if you feel like you are, what do you do?
Slip in terms of my diet?
Yeah.
It was hard at the beginning, but now since I've changed up the eating habits, my body's kind of like that. So it's honestly harder to slip than it is to stay on straight, because you put good fuel in your body, your body feels good.
Yep.
It's when you put the bad stuff in your body that it starts feeling bad, So,
no question.
Yeah, it hasn't been that big of a problem since then. Obviously, I'll still have a cheat day. I still love my Whataburger. I'll still go eat the Whataburger,
Yeah.
That never changed. But, yeah, I'm not having 2 double meat burgers every time now with the large fry and the milkshake, like you said.
If you live in Texas and you don't like Whataburger, then you're not really a part of the state of Texas. And I know there's a lot of other options as well. Colton, I appreciate your time, and go enjoy the beach. Colton Thomasson, Baylor offensive lineman, thanks for your time. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for your automotive needs. And right now they are celebrating anniversary savings. They've been saving up your money in your wallet for a long time now over at Richard Carr with their great offerings, their great deals, and that's including this month. They had Eclipse month last month. They had the month of madness before that, and right now let's just focus on the savings, like saving $11,000 on a GMC Sierra ATX 4x4. Qualified buyers can get 1.9% financing for 72 months. Military and first responders can also save an additional $500. That is on the GMC Sierra ATX 4x4 right now over at Richard Carr. They also have plenty of quality pre-owned cars and trucks as well. If that's the route you're looking to go down, over 90 highly inspected used vehicles, 100% credit approval is always the goal. Of course, say that all the time with any of these deals, but especially with those used cars and trucks. And they say yes when others say no, so check out the lot of 90 highly inspected vehicles right now over at Richard Carr. They've been in business for 25 years in Central Texas, and over that time, they've built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs, whether you're looking to buy new, you're looking to go the used route, pre-owned route, or you're just looking to get your oil changed. They can hook you up in that regard as well and make sure that the vehicle you're already in is driving safely and giving you that peace of mind as the summer travel months start to get underway. But whatever you're looking to do, they are the place to go here in Central Texas. So log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
It is time to announce the 14th annual Academic All-Stars team right here on 365 Sports. Hi, this is David Smoak. Our 20 Academic All-Stars have an overall grade point average of 103.2. 5 members are headed to a military academy. There are 6 valedictorians and 2 salutatorians. Our 2024 Academic All-Stars team includes Ryder Bagley from Groesbeck, Chilton's Colton Bossy, West Cole Bryant, Casey Cavanaugh from Troy, Lorena's Emily Flores, Whitney's J.C. Green, Franklin's Sarah Heisler, Academy's Madeline Hammonds, Waco High's Alexis Hookham, Kate Humphreys from Clifton, Marshall Cobb of Midway, Temple's Claire Little, Salado's Case Majin, Houston Powers of Crawford and Thorndale's Emily Reeves, Landon Richardson of Lampasas, Milford Shimon Rogers Jr., Brady Schultz of Abbott, March Monty Swainer, and Avery Thaler from Fairfield. The 2024 Academic All-Stars team is brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, Westdale Asset Management, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Ray Broker, Air Conditioning and Heating, HEB, Award Specialties, Healer Printing, Wolf Florist, Baylor Club, and the Waco Foundation. We will honor the 14th Annual Academic All-Stars team at our annual banquet, Wednesday, May 15th at the Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium. We're proud to recognize these elite student athletes in Greater Central Texas, our 14th Annual Academic All-Stars team, right here on 365 Sports.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Thank you for calling your local Marco's Pizza. We're turning up the heat with our new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Fresh, house-made dough is topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers. At only $5.99, this limited-time product is a hot deal. Add it to your order while you can. A Marco's team member will be with you shortly.
Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it, and that offer on the Reaper Cheesy Bread is available right now at any of the 5 Marco's Pizza locations in Waco, including Belmead, China Spring, Robinson, Woodway, and Hewitt. Order online at marcos.com. Call for a pickup or delivery. Marco's Pizza is turning up the heat with their all-new Reaper Cheesy Bread with fresh, hot, house-made dough topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers, and only $5.99 and for a limited time only. Marco's Pizza, the fastest-growing pizza brand in America, 5 locations in Waco, and the new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Steve Henson, now a part of Scott Drew's staff at Baylor. Now, the full staff has been announced. Last week, to close out the week, Tweety Carter, the great Baylor legend, he joined us. Steve Henson joins us. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and I'm David Smoak. I did not realize this, and I'm telling you, man, the reaction to you being hired on Scott Drew's staff from a lot of people that I know that aren't a part of Baylor, you were a decathlete. You're a single-digit golfer. You might have been the greatest athlete ever to come out of Kansas or among the legends. Is this all right, Steve?
Man, it all sounds incredible. I don't know if any of that's true. The decathlete part, that's true. I do like to play golf. That part's true. But, yeah, the rest, that'd be a reach for that third one there for sure.
By the way, this segment was Steve Henson, now part of Scott Drew's staff at Baylor, brought to you by Richard Carr, Buick GMC, and the Baylor Bear Hotline. So what was the conversation like with Coach Drew when he was looking to replace some of those that left for really good opportunities around the country?
Well, it was just interesting how it all unfolded. You know, I made a call into him, obviously, known him for a long time and had so much respect for him. We went head to head for all those years when I was at Oklahoma. I was at Oklahoma for 5 seasons. So we went head to head, saw him on the road recruiting, him and his staff, and just really respected the way, they run their program here. It's just an elite culture. We were proud of our culture at Oklahoma and had tons of respect for the way Coach Drew and his staff did things. So the initial conversation, just kind of casual talk. We talked quite a while, one-on-one on the phone right after all that other nonsense settled down, where he told everybody he wanted to stay in Baylor forever. That was a big deal. That was a big deal, because I had talked to him just briefly before the Final Four, and I was hoping to talk to him again right after the Final Four, and then obviously all that other stuff was going on. So once that died down, we got back on the phone and visited some more, and I was just honored and excited that we were having those conversations, and then we just talked a few more times. Got on the Zoom with the staff, and just a lot of things lined up. A lot of things made a lot of sense, and hopefully he had enough respect for me and where I'd been and the way we had done things. Certainly, I had a ton of respect for what's going on over here in Waco with the Baylor program.
Coach, obviously, you are a tremendously positive person, and you have to be to even probably interview with Coach Drew. Do you now feel like you have to raise your level of positivity?
You know what? You're right on. You are right on point. You got to raise your positivity. You got to raise your energy. He just exudes it. I mean, I knew that about him, but man, just getting on the phone with him a couple times and then getting on a Zoom with him and then meeting with him in person. Yeah, it's amazing, his energy level. He goes and goes and goes, and his staff, they do a great job of working together. Everybody chips in. It's just like a beehive around this office. I've only been here a couple of days, but it's amazing watching this group of coaches operate. Several new guys, I know, as you mentioned, and a couple guys getting promoted from within. But man, these guys are hustling and working, and it's an exciting place. You got to keep up. You got to keep up because they're ripping and running.
You also work for a guy that is known for being incredible, class act, just a great human being, and Lon Kruger. How much did you learn from him, and how much can you compare kind of the personalities?
Yeah, that's a great point. Coach Kruger, I played for Coach Kruger. I signed to play for him at K-State, and then when my playing days were over, I joined his staff and just tried to soak it in, not only the X's and O's. Coach Kruger was a great tactician, but just the way he treated people every single day, the way he treated players, people in the community, that really made a big impact on me. He was doing the same things when I was a player, but I didn't notice those as much. When I started working for him, it just made a bigger impact. And then get over here, and Coach Drew is all about culture. They're different, and Scott, very animated, very high energy, all that. Coach Drew's a little more low key, but when you talk about high character people, there aren't many in the business anywhere near those two in that regard. So again, that's what really just made me so excited for this opportunity to come about.
I had somebody tell me this, that you, Steve Henson at Oklahoma, was what John Jacobs was at Baylor when it comes to guard play and offense. Is that a fair description?
Well, everybody I say that, not everybody does. We got some guys on the staff that are chomping at the bit, want to put some defensive drills in today. People love tinkering with the offense, and I do too. Yeah, I learned a lot from Coach Kruger in that regard, watching him operate and tinker with things offensively. It was kind of fascinating sitting in those meetings. And one of my best friends was on his staff for years and years and years. He felt like there was often times when we were in the room that maybe he and I were talking about things just so eye to eye on the same level, on the same page with everything. So I try to soak in those things. Yeah, I enjoy that part of the game. Spend a lot of time working with the guards. There was a stretch where I intentionally asked if I could work more with the big guys just to help myself grow as an assistant coach years ago. I wanted to be able to, check all those boxes. But I spent a lot of times with guards. We had great guards. All the stops we were at over the years, we had really good guard play, which is why we won a lot of ball games at all those stops. It's just so important at every level. You've got to have terrific guard play. And I do enjoy working with those guys, trying to help them improve and think like a point. It's hard to convert guys, but some guys, that's the case. They come in and they've got the talent, but maybe not the vision, maybe not the leadership required to play the position. So, those are areas I really enjoy.
you mentioned being able to teach, like you can't sometimes teach somebody how to think like a point or be a point guard. Is that maybe the only position that works with? Because you do have so many different responsibilities than the other four on the floor?
I think it's the hardest position to convert to. You know, you can slide over the other direction. You can help guys change, but yeah, the point guard's tough. I mean, there's a lot on their plate. They've got to understand time and score. They got to understand who's got the hot hand. They got to understand the flow of the game. And certain guys have the ball handling ability or the scoring ability, the ability to beat people off the dribble. But there's a lot more that goes into it than that. And I think a lot of high school kids, when they make that adjustment coming into college, they realize that there's just so much more on their plate. So it's fun to take a talented guy and help him grow in that regard. Obviously we've got some guys in this program. We'll have some guards with unbelievable Division I experience, and we'll have a high school kid coming in that's just incredibly talented. So it'll be fun to help those two, and then hopefully they help each other.
Somebody asked me to follow up with the decathlete comment that I made earlier. What was your most what of the events in the decathlete was where you scored your most points?
Yeah, I kind of went about it the opposite way of the guys that are really good at it. There's 10 events. Speed is important. Let's not mistake for that. But I was growing up was around track my entire life. I grew up in a relatively small town in Kansas, but we all experimented with it like at 8 or 9 years old, and I just fell in love with it. There was a small college right outside just 100 yards outside my back door. There was a McPherson College was there, and I would spend hours every day over there just messing around, long jumping, high jumping. So I learned to. I was a very good high jumper at an early age, and I got to junior high and started pole vaulting and throwing the javelin. So if you can pole vault and high jump and throw the discus and javelin, then you're off to a pretty good start. So that's kind of how my love for it came about. I was a 7-foot high jumper, so that was probably my best event. And as a javelin, I was a state champion in the javelin, so I scored a lot of points in those. Usually the high jump, pole vault, javelin, 1500. All the throws, I was pretty good. I'd fall so far behind in the 100 and long jump, I was playing catch the whole time. Hey. I was short, but I was slow, So.
Yeah, they all count, though. I mean, that's why there's 10 of them.
That's exactly right. But, when I got into college, the speed events just caught up with me. I just couldn't overcome the lack of speed.
Former Kansas State Wildcat with us, Steve Henson, now part of Scott Drew's staff at Baylor, played in the NBA, Hawks and the Bucks and the Charlotte Hornets, coached in the NBA too. What was, Pistons, you were part of the Blazers. What was the most interesting as a player or a coach in the NBA?
Well, first thing, not exactly what you're asking, but right out of the gates, when you anytime you move from one level to the next, you just notice the size and the quickness. There's a lane there. You think you can get in that lane and it closes down quicker. There's a passing lane. You pass it and the guy deflects it. The guys are just bigger and faster and better, period. I bounced, you just rattled off a whole bunch of teams. And when I was playing in the NBA, it would have been ideal, I thought at the time, to stay with the Milwaukee Bucks. I was drafted in the second round by the Bucks. Loved it there. Wish I could have played my whole career there. I mean, that's what you want generally, is to not bounce around a ton. But looking back now, I'm so grateful that happened, because it gave me the opportunity to experience. I got to play with a bunch of Hall of Famers. I got to play with Jack Stickman, Moses Malone in Milwaukee, Dominique Wilkins in Atlanta, and Grant Hill in Detroit, and Clyde Drexler in Portland, and it kind of goes on and on. So from that standpoint, I'm glad I bounced around. And then also just to learn from different staffs. I went to training camp one year with Don Nelson. I went to a summer league with Pat Riley. I played for Del Harris. Went to training camp with Lenny Wilkins. So I just, again, tried to take bits and pieces from each one of those guys and then store it in my memory banks or put it down on paper. Things that I could draw on years later. We still, up until last year when I was coaching at UTSA, we still used a numbering system that was based off of something I learned from Del Harris in 1990, my rookie year in the NBA. So just try to draw on all those experiences. Most of them were the positives, but there were a few things that I witnessed over the years that's okay. I definitely don't want to do it that way. You can learn from that as well. But really grateful now that I did have the opportunity to bounce around. I got to experience playing in the CBA, which is similar to the G League now. Played internationally in Italy and Greece, and just hopefully that gives me a perspective from the player's point of view, and again, learned so much from all those different styles.
So you were a Hawk so that means you played with Dominique Wilkins, right?
Correct.
What was that like? I mean, I don't know. Like, I could ask a ton of questions. I'll just simplify it. What was it like to be on the court with a guy who could do what he did?
Oh, it was amazing. It's funny because, Dominique, you think of the human highlight reel. I mean, he scored thousands and thousands of – he was like a little kid almost, It was just Dominique. When he's your teammate, you look at him a little bit differently. But, yeah, you can easily get caught, and I spent a lot of time on the bench. Let's not mistaken. I spent more time watching from the bench than I did on the court. But in Atlanta, I was in the rotation every night. I backed up Mookie Blaylock, and so I played every single night. But you could get caught watching, when you're on the court with him too, because he was going to do some amazing things there. So he just had an unbelievable feel for making buckets and making exciting buckets night in, night out.
Steve Henson is now on Scott Drew's staff at Baylor, hired. The staff has been filled out and completed. I had Kevin Gall, who's a part of Baylor Athletics Senior Administration, sent me a note or two. Tim Maloney, who's like an unbelievable basketball historian. I was on the phone with him last night and have talked to him a couple of times. But Brent Ingram, media relations, vice president media relations at Baylor, and handles football, but he handled basketball. He was at UTSA when you were there. He made the comment about how it was great that you are everything everyone's been saying about you. And have you seen Brent yet since you've been on campus?
I have. And, honestly, that's really how all this started. I spent some time with Brent when he was over at UTSA. He came over here, and he got to know me a little bit in the brief time he was there, and he came over here, and he was the one that reached out and really encouraged me to reach out to Coach Drew. And that's kind of how we got this thing started. And I've known, Kevin Gall, of course, for a long time as well. And to have some of those people talking, to both sides, it just sounded like it made a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. And there's a little bit of staff turnover, and just kept telling Coach Drew, hey, I've been a head coach the last 8 years. He has not had much staff turnover. It's been
Absolutely.
terrific. When you do well, your assistants are going to have opportunities to move on, and every head coach wants that. And Coach Drew's got an unbelievable coaching tree all across the country right now. But he had a little bit more turnover this spring than usual, and I went through the same thing a year ago. So I felt like maybe I could come in here with a little different perspective. I'm going to understand some of the things that he might be feeling, and maybe I can address those from a little different point of view. But ultimately, I think it came down to just being on the same page culturally, spiritually. Obviously, for me, this was an unbelievable opportunity. Did not want to sit out a year. I wanted to jump right back in. And, man, it's like a home run. Come to Baylor, where we're going to be competing for a national championship. We're going to do things right. We're going to look forward to seeing each other every single day, and it's just a very special place.
So, Steve, I know you were at UTSA, and it didn't always go well. And they're brand new. Jeff Traylor's football. I've known Jeff forever. We all have. He was on the show earlier this week, and what they've done. What did you learn about yourself as a head coach at UTSA? What do you take out of all that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was looking back on it. We understand a couple of things that kept us from turning the corner. We took a program that was at the bottom, and we made huge strides in the early years. Year one was one of the most rewarding years we had. We overachieved, and then we brought in a bunch of talent. Had the chance to coach the second highest scoring duo in NCAA history. We had two little guards in the program for 4 years that were incredible, Javon Jackson and Keaton Wallace, and finished tied for second in the league 1 year, and just couldn't quite get over the hump there. But looking back, don't have many regrets. My staff was great. They stayed loyal to me. We fought and competed all the way till the end. So, I think there's some things I feel like I'm at a point now where I'm going to come into this with a little more experience from the head coach seat, but with the hunger, just like I had 8 or 9 years ago when I was an assistant in Oklahoma. You know, my objective when I was at Oklahoma was to help Coach Kruger on a daily basis, you know, be the best assistant coach I could be. You know, I've always been approach thing with the worker's mentality. You know, I'm just going to work and work and work, and that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to try to help Coach Drew, help the other assistants, help the younger assistants, you know, help us do things the right way off the court and help us win ball games. That's my objective every day, and I found some areas that I think I can continue to grow with.
Well, here's the way I want to close this out, if you don't mind. And this is one of the other things that was said about you. And Coach Drew's had he's got a spider web, and what the coaching tree is like is amazing. But also, he has had his inner circle. Yes. One of the things that was said, and that's why you're hiring, it says a lot about you. No enemies, with great respect from everyone. When I say that to you, what does that mean to you?
Well, I just learned behavior. You know, that goes back to what I witnessed. You know, my dad was a legendary high school coach in Kansas, Hall of Fame high school coach. He treated people the right way. I signed to play for Coach Kruger, and then just watched him, you know, for all those years. You can do things the right way and have a lot of success, and that's just the route I decided to go. You know, it just, there's a lot of hate in this world. There's a lot of anger, and those are hate's just an ugly word. So I just try to treat people with respect. The basketball world is small. Things come around. Things come full circle, you know. So you're much better off just treating people with love and kindness and helping people out, because A, it's the right thing to do, and B, can come back around in a positive way when you least expect it.
Steve, thank you very much. Congratulations on the opportunity. Welcome to Waco. We'll see you down the road. We appreciate your time. Heard so many great things about you, and enjoy what you get now around that program and what you bring to the program too. Have a great day.
Well, thank you so much. I don't take this for granted. It's an unbelievable opportunity. I look forward to visiting with you guys some more and having a great time here at Baylor. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Steve Henson, now part of the Baylor men's basketball staff, right there with Paul had Tweety Carter on Friday, as they have molded that staff after so many defections John Jake is the head coach at FAU. Alvin Brooks III now lead assistant coach at Kentucky with Mark Pope. Bill Peterson's now out in Denver. So, and they've been able to continue. And I think Ashley Hodge, there's a lot of national writers, but Ashley Hodge seems to nail this. He's so tight within the program. Nailed this. He nailed Norshad Omir. He also, with Jeremy Roach, was ahead of the curve. And also with some of the coaching changes, and even the Kentucky search with Scott Drew being involved.
Yeah, there was a lot of information going on, and I like that he referred to that there at the very beginning. Like, once that settled down, then, you know, it found his way to the staff here at Baylor. But, yeah, that was a lot of noise to sort through, and I think that Ashley and others who contributed on the website did a masterful job of that. So, yeah, I don't think that there was anywhere better to have looked during that time period. And if you were a Baylor fan, while, you know, many who aren't on that site were probably freaking out, I think you're always still going to be freaking out until it's official. But I think you felt very okay about sort of where things were, despite all of what the national talk was. So, yeah, that was a home run, and sounds like Scott's hit some more big base knocks with this staff. I mean, easy to listen to that and be excited about what's to come and all the changes and everything that comes with that. So, yeah, they've addressed, I think, the staff now, the roster, still somewhat of a work in progress, but they've obviously landed two huge pieces in Roach and Omir. So things are trending continuously up for Baylor basketball. I think just now it's a point where you look long term and, like, you need to get into the second weekend. You know, like you really need to get into the second weekend here next season, because that's starting to become like a little bit of a thing now since the national title. But all the pieces are in place seemingly, and they're one of the top programs in the country without a doubt. So, yeah, it's good to hear from some of the new voices, new faces.
All right, I want to put this up, and then we'll take a break after this. This is to tease the next segment. We've got a couple other things to get to as well. Paul's top 5 in about 25 minutes or so. Yeah. The Austin Rivers quote, Garrett. Austin Rivers was on with Pat McAfee, and he was mentioning basically you could take 30 players right now in the NBA and throw them in the NFL, and you cannot take 30 NFL players and put them in the NBA. Don't comment. We'll chew on that, digest it, come back. Yeah, that thing's making noise right there. That will come back and get the feedback from the chat room. Which sport can you cross over into another professional sport among the four major sports, NHL, NBA, baseball, and football? And which ones do you think would be able to do that better? Which sport, which professional sport or league can do that better? That's Austin Rivers. We'll have some of the responses after what he said. This is 365 Sports.
Cars priced right, both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses. When it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs. Knowing you, that's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, so Austin Rivers saying that there are 30 NBA players who could play in the NFL. And there are some great athletes in the NBA. And I saw some of the responses to this, and I had never really thought much about this. We've discussed guys like Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, whatever, they can cross over and play different sports. There were a couple of different responses. Garrett, I don't know if you have it, if I can read it from where I am, but one of the responses was from our good friend, Ross Tucker. No such thing as load management in the NBA or in the NFL. There was also former Oklahoma star, played with Tampa Bay in the NFL, say, man, stop with the BS. Y'all just looking at athleticism. It's so much more. And he was talking about what it takes to play in the National Football League. And so those were a couple of the responses. There's some that said, oh, no, I think he's right. So Austin Rivers, is that the sport where you could take 30 NBA players and they could play in the NFL, some maybe until they get hit?
Look, I don't know how good of basketball players, Like if you're talking about how good certain guys are at certain sports, like maybe it's a hard thing to compare. Look, there are guys in the NBA that are certainly, yes, there are 30 guys that are certainly plenty athletic to play in the NFL. And there are guys in the what I don't agree with is there's some NFL guys that could probably hang in the NBA for a little while. I mean, there's it's harder in the NBA. The rosters are way smaller. It's the elite of the elite. NFL rosters are bigger. But, yeah, look, LeBron James probably in another walk of life would have been an unbelievable tight end or defensive end because he's just so tall and strides long and all those things, But I don't know, I don't think that it's unequivocal that you couldn't swing the door both ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very subjective thing, obviously, and McAfee really got the Twitter sphere up in arms debating this. But I don't know. I don't think there's an exact answer here. I mean, there's clearly not an exact answer here. It's all in the eye of the beholder. But I tend to agree with Austin Rivers more than I agree with the other side of things. And I know McAfee was kind of playing up it jokingly. The NFL, they're tougher. It's far more physical, things like that, and that's all very well and true. But in terms of just simply sliding into the other and being able to carve out a career, I do think that NBA guys would have a better time of doing that football transition than football guys making the NBA transition. Not because there aren't big guys that are super athletic that can play ball, but I just think you are talking about very specific skill sets when it comes to basketball. And I know you are with football as well, but the biggest dude in the NFL is still just like an average-sized guy in the NBA. I mean, these offensive – he's 6'7". Okay, there's like a 6'7" dude on every single team in the NBA, right? There's 6'7", 200-pounders every single game you look at, if not 6'9", 6'10", 6'11".
7 feet.
7 feet.
That are athletic.
Now, I'm not saying and here's the thing, is somebody will go, well, Victor Wembanyama would get killed. Well, yeah, he in particular would get killed. But if you throw somebody else into the mix that is not that guy, the tall, wiry type of guy, but is more of your general post player, then I think, they could go in there and be a defensive end and rush the passer or a big tight end. So, it's very subjective. I understand why it was such a polarizing conversation because you had a lot of former athletes that got involved in talking about it. But I think if I had to pick a side, I do agree with Austin Rivers, I guess, more than whatever the opposite opinion is. What is the opposite opinion?
Well, there really wasn't one about the opposite opinion. It was more of some that played football.
Yeah.
Like J.J. Watt said, you don't have a job in either one right now. Go try it. That was – but as far
Does he technically?
He did say this weekend – he did say in the last, I think it was the last 3 days, that he's not against a comeback if the Texans really needed him.
Here's where I disagree. Yeah, and I saw that too. We couldn't get around to that yesterday. But I don't know that I agree with the 30. That's the part where I go, I don't know about that. I don't know about 30 guys. That's borderline disrespectful to think that that's a dude off every single team could make an NFL roster. I don't agree with that. I don't agree. I do, though, think there are more basketball players that could hang and stay in the NFL with the proper training and everything, of course, than I do think there are football players that would go and stick in the NBA. That's where I find myself. I don't know that it's a large gap, it's overwhelmingly in favor of the basketball player. But, the arguments have been interesting to see. Mm-hmm. I think we don't give basketball players nearly enough credit for the physicality. I think we act like it's just all hand checking and there's no physicality whatsoever. It's these are some big dudes out there now. It's not the Knicks and Bulls in the 90s, but we got to also stop referencing that every time there's an argument about toughness, because that wasn't the only tough era. And I'm a 90s baby. I'm an NBA 90s guy, MJ, all that. But it's made for a very interesting conversation for sure. But I think in total, I'd take more NBA guys sticking to the NFL than NFL guys sticking to the NBA. Okay. But I don't think it's 30.
Let's and I know you were going to add some, but I can you think of an NFL player or 5 that would be able to play with the skill set in the NBA?
Justin Jefferson.
Okay.
Justin Jefferson for sure.
But here's the thing. It's there's the size part and there's the athleticism part, but there's also the dribbling, the shooting, doing all those things that I don't like a guy like that. I can understand exactly where you're coming from.
Des Bryant, when he was playing with the Cowboys, was a guy
but he was a really good basketball player for an NFL guy, apparently. But I don't know that he was NBA level good.
Actually played.
Terrell Owens is a a really good basketball player. You know, so like there are guys. The difference though, and here's where Austin Rivers can say this. How many 6'1" guys are there in the NBA? There's a few, but like, you know, the thing is 6'1", you're like, oh, Jalen Brunson at 6'2" is a smaller guy. And then you've got all these guys who are 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". Well, you do have some 6'7" guys that are linemen and
offensive and defensive linemen, some tight
Johnny
ends.
Wilson now that, and people like this, some tight ends. But of the guys that like, you know, a wide receiver is tall at 6'3". At 6'3", you're very average height in the NBA, if not below.
Dude, 6'6", 240 guys are like grow on trees in the NBA.
And just to let you, here's what I would suggest you do. You can't do it now, but next basketball season, when college basketball and the NBA are on in the same night, to show you how the jump from college basketball to the NBA is so much different, watch on the same size court a college team inbound the ball and then count how many steps it takes that little dude to cross midcourt. Then flip over and watch somebody inbound the ball to LeBron James, who literally takes 4 steps and he's at the stripe.
And they don't call traveling.
Yeah,
so
but I mean, like,
doesn't have to even
but their
dribble.
strides are just longer. They're bigger.
But how many of these NBA players that act like they've been shot like soccer players when there's any kind of contact? Now, listen, they're playing. Watching that Minnesota Timberwolves game against Denver the other night.
I think Anthony Edwards couldn't go out there and catch the passes. And
Hell yeah, he could.
I bet he very well could,
Yeah, he could. I don't think there's any question about that.
No, you're right, but that's also them programmed to playing a certain type of style in the game. If they're in the NFL, there would be no flopping. that would get rooted out real quick.
Yeah.
Now, on the other side, NFL guy would probably be overly physical and have to learn, like, you can't just, blindside a guy on a pick and roll because that will get called. So, yeah, I do understand. I also think we overblow the sensitivity level because we act like every game, every guy's flopping, just in general from the outside, like this criticism of the NBA. They're soft. They're this, they're that. They're extremely incredible athletes throughout the league that you just mentioned one of them in Anthony Edwards, various others on his own team. So yeah, I just think the fluidity, the kind of the body styles. I do think there are guys that are built to go be a tight end or go be a defensive end or beef. I mean, we're also looking at like a guy who's a center on the Jazz and not realizing like you could add 25 pounds, get him in the cafeteria at the Ravens facility, and I bet you they can turn him into a big dude that can rush the passer.
How many of those players in the NBA in high school played football or whatever? I bet
I would imagine a lot of them.
None of them probably played hockey. So that's the one right there. Could hockey players play football? Could the hand-eye coordination, could any of them play baseball? But can any of the other sports have anybody that would play hockey?
You know who was a hell of a baseball player was Eric Lindros.
Yes, he was.
Michael Jordan.
Yeah. yeah. Michael Jordan was
okay.
He was better than he gets credit for.
He had 240 in AA after not playing for 15 years.
It's easy to poo-poo on him in that situation.
Like for guys who have been doing it every day their whole life, and then for him to take a decade plus off and
the part that was stupid when they thought he could play on the PGA Tour. That's again, that's a different sport, but that's so silly.
Well, they were watching him play against Charles Barkley, so they thought he was really, really good.
Oh, my God. And he got out there. Listen, it's hard. That game's hard. And he plays at a high level.
I still hear most athletes that I've come across who've had these debates over the years still say, like, playing baseball as far as hitting is, like, the most difficult thing to do. I think everybody kind of universally sort of settles on and agree that toughest position to play, and I think they mentioned this during that interview, is quarterback. I think Austin Rivers even, like, said, like, I will say – playing quarterback and all that you have to do with reading defenses and feeling a pass rush and knowing where to go and where everybody, all 10 guys, 11 including yourself, have to be, like that total package is probably the most difficult thing to do in all of sports is play NFL quarterback. But, I mean, hockey is incredibly difficult. I think you get like some 6'10" NBA players, they're not going to have an easy time on skates rolling out there. That one's just unique because of the element of putting them on skates, I think. There's
And that's almost a completely different culture of a sport.
Well, I didn't even have the opportunity to play hockey.
No.
Like, it's not ingrained in every school here. Like, you can, I don't know, there's probably some schools where they don't have like a baseball team or something, but I think pretty much everybody's got football, baseball, basketball.
Yeah.
And so you do have a chance to do those things, whereas hockey, it's a lot more selective on where you grew up and whatnot. But yeah, I love the debate it created, but I do think that the NBA transition is where I would land as being the better shot. But again, I'm not saying 30 guys could go and do that.
J.J. Watt was quoted. He saw that quote. He thought Austin Rivers was saying he could play in the NFL.
No.
So he goes, I don't think this argument is properly giving enough credit to either sport. Both sports are insanely difficult. There are different tools and skills of playing in both. But the NBA athletes are amazingly gifted. There's no question about it.
I mean, LeBron James, I feel like if he had dedicated himself to football, could have gone really far with that. I don't know if he would have been, I remember when they had the commercial with him.
Well, his body style.
Yeah, I mean, but there's a lot of guys that are built like him, similar to him.
Oh, yeah.
They're not maybe exactly like him. He's a freak, but there's a lot of other freaky players built to play another sport for sure. Austin Rivers, by the way, he's 6'4", 200.
Yep.
I mean, that's not small, and he's not one of the bigger guys in that league either.
I remember when there was even the thought, and I thought it was silly, and I still think it would be silly if it was LeBron could play with the Cowboys. Remember that? Because that's
I don't think that's that silly.
LeBron is one of those dudes who sits in a category himself when it comes to football and basketball. I think LeBron could. I don't know if he could. I don't know if he would like it as much the minute he got hit, like you said.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying athletically he's not gifted.
I was going to say, what makes you think he couldn't do it?
Yeah,
what is he? 6'8", 6'9", and he's built like a brick.
Did you see the commercial where he was in the Browns uniform? He looked like if you would have known, you're like, yeah, that's the Cleveland Browns tight end or wide receiver right there. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, you're also thinking of him without having any sort of proper football training. So you're just like, oh, yeah, if you plucked him right now.
Well, but that's part of the discussion, though. You're talking about the guys who are in it right now, how many could cross over. The Deons and the Bo Jacksons, et cetera, were all very special with the baseball crossover. But I haven't seen many that – I think it was Dave DeBusschere, who played back in the years of the Knicks, back in the days like the 60s and 70s, played baseball with the White Sox. But again, it's usually like baseball's involved.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a different skill set for sure. I just think the intangibles that come with basketball, dribbling, and kind of, it's not 11 on 11. There's a lot of things you'd have to adjust to that for, individualized cases. You could think that this guy'd be good at that, but maybe not good at that, so on and so forth. But yeah, I do think there's plenty of basketball guys that go the basketball route because the money's better and it's less of a toll on your body. But if they had to go the other route and all things are equal, I think there's plenty of them that could have gained another 20 pounds and put their fingers in the grass and came off the edge,
Dave Winfield,
what a
drafted by the NBA or drafted into the NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball. University of Minnesota.
Crazy.
Incredibly gifted and had the kind of body that could play all those sports.
They're absolute best athlete of all time. There will never be another athlete at the University of Minnesota that's as good as Dave Winfield.
Oh, I thought, yeah.
Absolutely.
I was thinking of one of the great all-time in general, but Minnesota, you would think for certain.
Yeah. It's just such a different thing. And the other thing now, Austin Rivers says this, and we're in an era of, people get hyper-focused on one sport. There was a time where this question would have been easy. Like Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge played baseball and basketball.
With Toronto, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's a lot.
So you made me – I had to look this up, Paul. Greatest 5 athletes in University of Minnesota history. Brock Lesnar.
Okay.
Kevin McHale.
Yeah.
Well, Brock Lesnar clearly played the realest sport of all of them, No, he did. He was a wrestler, UFC guy. I'm not taking away. The pro wrestling thing kind of, but he was an incredible athlete without a doubt.
And again, I'm looking for what else they did other than just their name. Bronco Nagurski, Neil Broughton was a hockey player. I'm not sure what the other, but Dave Winfield right there, number one, being drafted in all those various sports, and I think would have been good in any of them.
I'll say this, Brock Lesnar was a UFC champion, And also, I mean, wrestling does take its toll on your body. He's also an amateur wrestler, a terrific amateur wrestler, but he tried the NFL. He didn't make it out of training camp with the Vikings. Now, was he playing college football? No. Had he done that? But he had the size, he had the strength, but even he couldn't cut it in the NFL. So I think there is that element of, you also probably don't give credit to just how big and strong and powerful guys are, especially, and he was trying to D-line. So, I mean, you got to be think about that. That dude's probably, you think of the strongest people out there that you would not want to see in a dark alley. Brock Lesnar's probably up there, right? As far as just ripping your arms off and beating you to death with them. And yet he's just another dude in the NFL to give the football side of things some credit. So yeah, I don't know how many basketball players would be built for that level of nastiness, but I also don't think they're all just floppers and pushovers like it's kind of made out to be sometimes either.
Kevin, let's see. LaRue, I think. What a great way to spell it. LaRue, you'd love this, Garrett. Heureux, like Go Tigers.
My man.
Hockey is a much more international sport. Many Scandinavians take much less, taken much less European talent. Now Russian, Belarusian players, even few players from Japan.
Yeah.
Basketball's close to getting that way when it comes to international ball. But great point, Kevin. Yeah. Thank you for giving us that note in the chat.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And so it's more unique in that way for sure. It's the fourth best, at best in this country when it comes to training and the focus of athletes. So, but yeah, it's definitely got its place amongst the top sports and certainly internationally. I love seeing the international, obviously basketball's got all its various leagues all over the world. The World Baseball Classic this last time around was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I thought that was
until
fantastic.
the Mets closer got hurt.
Football's the only one that's not, they're desperately trying with all these international games, and they've got their clinics and things, and I think we have seen there's been, maybe more of a, I think on occasion you see a Japanese player is able to make it over and at least get an NFL tryout on occasion, like maybe a player from Mexico or something like that. But the pro football is the one internationally that's not broken through, all the way just yet. But the others definitely have their fair share of international athletes.
Somebody brought this up. Tony Gwynn, one of the greatest contact and hitters in the history of baseball, was a hell of a basketball player when he was at San Diego State University. There was one other note in the chat I want to get to, then we break, come back with Paul's top 5. Think about this. The Rock became a WWE star. He was a backup to Hall of Fame defensive lineman Warren Sapp.
Yeah, he was. I've heard, Sapp kind of talk about that era, and I've heard Rock talk about it a little bit as well. I don't know how deep they usually get into it because, Rock was not like a mainstay, big-time star on those Miami teams, but he was on those Miami teams, and he had his role on those teams, and that's definitely a part of his backstory. But, Warren Sapp was the man, and Rock was a decent to okay, maybe a little bit above average college football player. But, Sapp was that dude.
He was. Yeah. I did not know this about Tony Gwynn. Just saw this. He did not get a scholarship offer. He did to play basketball in college. He did not get a scholarship offer to play baseball.
Yeah. That's
ended up going. He was at Cal State Fullerton. I think I said San Diego State. All right. When we come back, Paul Catalina and the top 5.
It's the season to rev up your drive with Alan Samuels with the new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Waco. Your ultimate destination for unbeatable deals and top-notch service. Looking for a reliable ride to conquer these beautiful spring days? Look no further. The powerful trucks and sleek sedans are the perfect SUV. We've got the perfect vehicle to match your style and budget. Over 300 new vehicles to choose from. Now's the time to make your move. Enjoy special discounts, low financing rates, and incredible incentives. But hurry, these offers won't last forever. Alan Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, presented by Texas Beef House. Today, the top 5 Prove to Me coaches in 2024. In case you missed it, I'm Paul Catalina. It's not some other person sending me a top 5, and I'm reading it. I'm actually the guy who came up with this. So, if you don't like it, I'm sorry. Genuinely. Number 5, Dave Aranda. This is the one who may have the most number of Prove It To Me, because really on this list, he's the only guy who is legitimately on the hot seat. But if they go 3-9 again, he's out the door. Changes from last year, new offensive coordinator. He's essentially the defensive coordinator. New players all around. Not only a new offensive coordinator, but a totally new scheme on offense and a commitment to NIL and the transfer portal that is different than their previous attempts at it. All these things are what he should have done. The problem for Dave Aranda is the proof is going to be in the pudding. Are the new players you brought in good enough to compete in the Big 12? Last year, they weren't. And you missed on a recruiting class, the best player of which is in the transfer portal and gone in Armani Winfield. He was the highest ranked player, but he never panned out. So they've got to start hitting on the players that they get not only out of high school, but in the portal, and making moves now at Baylor for Dave Aranda to keep his job this year. I think, based on everything that we know covering it and everything we heard from Sam Kahn's article in The Athletic this week, the fans' expectation for him to be fired is much more than the administration's. They really want to keep him, so that works in Dave Aranda's favor really well, but they really need to be 6-6 or better and in a bowl game this season. Number 4, Lincoln Riley. This is the first year in Lincoln Riley's head coaching tenure, be it at Oklahoma or USC, that he will not have a quarterback that most of the world thinks is a surefire stud. He had such a great run at OU, and then he brought that run with OU with him when he brought Caleb Williams to USC. This year, Miller Moss, Jaden Mayava battling out in spring. That'll continue into the fall with Miller Moss leading right now. And Miller Moss had that great bowl game, so he's got potential. But are you the QB guru that everybody thinks you are?
especially after losing a 5-star recruit who didn't play last year in Malachi Nelson to the transfer portal and to Boise State at that. So one of the more confusing off seasons in recent memory for a school like USC and a coach like Lincoln Riley. Now, he is the quarterback whisperer and he gets a lot out of people. So I would not be surprised to see Miller Moss or Jaden Maiava explode on the scene and do really well for Lincoln Riley in an offense that has playmakers all around them. The defense, again, has to be better. He's made changes on that side of the ball, but to me, this is a prove-it season to Lincoln Riley in that let's prove that you can do it without a Caleb Williams, without a Kyler Murray, without a Jalen Hurts, without one of those guys. Can you do this the same way? Because those guys were all pretty surefire hits at quarterback. Miller Moss, maybe, we'll see. Not dogging the kid, but this is one that is far off from Caleb Williams, who everybody expected to be a star from the minute he stepped on campus in Norman and was already a star when he got to LA. Number 3, Mario Cristobal. Now, you may say, Paul, that's very rude of you to not include a GIF of himself, and just the mascot upset. This could be for 2 reasons. One, the most likely one, I'm a jerk who wanted to make fun of Miami. Or 2, there wasn't a GIF of Mario Cristobal wearing Miami clothes, so I didn't use that one. Or, guess what? A phantom third reason, which is a little bit of both. So, I know. I kid because, well, they're Miami. But it's true. Mario Cristobal has Cameron Ward, Damian Martinez, Jacoby George, Xavier Restrepo, Sam Brown on offense. He brought in Simeon Barrow from Michigan State on the defensive line. All stacked new transfers on the defensive line. Returners on defense. Returners on the offensive line. Transfers on the offensive line. This is the best starting lineup he's ever had at Miami. They have to show progress. And because of the talent they have and the money they've spent on Cameron Ward alone to come in there and help them win games, if they don't win, the arrow's not going to be able to point to the talent anymore. It's going to be pointing to the guys who coach that talent, namely Mario Cristobal and his staff, especially offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson. Again, not in danger of getting fired, but if he loses games how he has in the past, and keep in mind that at Oregon and at Miami, he is 1 game over 500 as a head coach in his career. So, can you prove that you're better than a 500 coach this year, Mario Cristobal? Or, even though you still got some time to build up your alma mater, the storks will start chirping in South Florida. Number 2, Lane Kiffin. Again, very similar to Mario Cristobal in that he's not in trouble. In fact, they love him at Ole Miss. He can stay at Ole Miss for the rest of his career, and they're probably never going to complain. Honestly, he's a great fit in Oxford. None of us here think that he's going to stay at Ole Miss for the rest of his career. But again, less of me would be shocked if it did happen than it would have been, say, 5 years ago. But Lane Kiffin has a roster that he can have only dreamed about in the past. And they have gone all in on the transfer portal. He calls himself the Portal King. I still contend that it is Mike Norvell. But Lane Kiffin is certainly in a prove-it year because you just gone and gotten all this money from your alumni and your boosters and your NIL and all that to get the Walter Nolans of the world in your locker room. You got to perform and do something that Ole Miss has never done and contend for the SEC title all the way through the year. And even if you don't play in that title game, this needs to be a playoff team with the talent they have, no ifs, ands, or buts. Or he's going to find it harder to get that money for himself in coming years. Because some of those guys are going to be there for a year and then walk out the door more than likely, like the aforementioned Walter Nolan. And number 1 on the prove it list, Ryan Day. This obviously came after a loss to Michigan, one of the only schools that Ryan Day has ever lost to. He's lost to Michigan. He's lost to Georgia. He lost a game this year in a bowl game without the starters to Missouri. And then there's probably one other in there. But outside of Michigan and Georgia, 2 of the best programs in the country, and a Mizzou team that was ready to drink their blood and get a big win for their program, he's not really lost anybody. Ryan Day has no stupid, random in-conference losses. Like, he doesn't have that, like, oh, crap, we lost to Maryland. Like, that didn't happen to Ryan Day. He's one of the best coaches in the country. He runs one of the best offenses in the country. He's got one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. His new offensive coordinator is Chip freaking Kelly. But he hasn't beaten Michigan in 3 years, and that's kept him out of the national title race, essentially, even though they were in the playoff just 2 years ago. But if he does not, with the roster that they have gotten through the transfer portal, Quinshon Judkins, Will Howard, Caleb Downs, just to name a few, plus the people that he's retained, which was really impressive that Ohio State retained all the guys that they did. Not guys transferring necessarily, but some guys like Jack Sawyer and JT Tuiaumolo, who could have gone to the NFL draft, but came back for another year in Columbus. But this is a prove-it year for Ryan Day. If he doesn't beat Michigan, who should be a little bit down after all they lost last year, including their head coach, and doesn't make a deep run in the playoff, again, it's the first year of the 12-team playoff, then the birds will start chirping in Ohio for him at the Ohio State University. I feel disgusted that I even fell into that trap and said that, but I did. But Ryan Day, it's a prove-it year for him. Prove that you are really still the top dog in the Big Ten, or one of them, and don't just lose to your rival or the big teams. That's been his big, cave that he keeps falling into, or hole. If he can get out of it this year with this roster, he should be off the prove it list from now on. That's it for the top 5. We're going to wrap it up right now.
All right, Paul Catalina, brought to you by TexasBeefHouse.com. Ryan Day looks so sad walking through the tunnel after that loss to Harbaugh at Michigan. Hey, real quickly, Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Memorial Day sales event being kicked off right now. Got all this information from Ted Teague yesterday evening. The 2023 Jeep Wagoneer Series 3 loaded up with heads-up display, 20-inch wheels and tire, one owner, right out available at just under $55,000. The 2023 Chevrolet Suburban High Country four-wheel drive, one owner, clean Carfax, just reduced to just under $74,000. And one other note, 2023 Ford F-150 Lariat, under 10,000 miles, one owner, $63,985. If you want power, loaded with power, the 2021 Jeep Rubicon 392 with 470 horsepower, one of the most powerful SUVs in the market at $68,350. And those are just some of the opportunities for you to get your vehicle, pre-owned vehicle, with it being Memorial Day sales event going on throughout the month at Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco. Don't forget tonight at 10:30, 365 Sports Tonight on the CW. Please hit the like and subscribe button if you don't mind. Spread the word. And we did blow right by 40,000 subscribers yesterday, and already now at just over 40,100. So thank you for the growth there. Garrett Ross, you want to?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Definitely hope to keep it up and see where we can take it on to 50. I said at 100, I'll do show no hat. I maintain that. So
I don't believe you. I absolutely.
I'll tell you. Every 10,000 will get a keg stand or some sort of stunt over here.
Okay.
Every 10,000. 10,000, the next 10,000.
There's a barrel over there that they put whiskey in it, right?
Yeah, that one I'm not going to, I don't want to die. But even though I do love whiskey. But, yes, I will do a keg stand, and then we can under that on the time.
40,100 plus and counting. Thanks to Jack McKenzie. Emery Winters dialing up 365 Sports Tonight. Garrett Ross, thank you, sir. Weaving in and out of so much. Levi Caraway for what he brings to the table, too. For Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, I'm David Smoak. Thanks to you who watch and or listen to us. 365 Sports back again tomorrow, and good night.